In Matthew 22, verses 34 to 40, Jesus said, hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Question: is Christian love real love? Would you want to be loved by Christian love? You might say yes. But once we go over this and talk a little bit about what Christian love actually looks like, you might change your mind. Welcome to Let's Talk. We hope that you'll call in tonight. The phone number is 984-400-5656. We are ready to talk to you. Let's go.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Oh, well, that was fast.
Sometimes it's a shockingly short intro. The first time I did it, I was expecting 20, 30 seconds. Yes. And then it's like, whoop, and I'm like, oh, hey, here we are.
Yes, here we are. Well, hey, welcome everybody. It's so great to be with you. I'm your host, Alan Bondar, the Unraveler, and my co-host tonight, Ember.
Hello.
We're so excited because this is the first time not only we're doing a show together, but we just met in person. So,
digitally in person. Yeah.
Digitally in person. Right. Yeah, digitally in person. So first time I heard your voice to me directly. So this is really fun. I remember when we were doing the Deconversionists a couple of weeks back, you were in the comments and you had said something about being on the show, and I was really funny. And I was like, hey, we're going to have you be my co-host instead. I was kicking Elliot off, but anyway, it was just real funny. But anyway, it's good to actually meet you in person. So anyway, we're talking about love tonight.
On Mother's Day.
On Mother's Day, yes. A mother's love. I bet you, Ember, that a mother's love actually looks nothing like Christian love.
Well, I guess it depends on what we mean, because so many let's say apologists, and be nice about it, they will go on about different kinds of love, right? Like there's platonic love, the love for your friend, and then there's that agape love, the love that you have for a beautiful sunrise, and or a good meal, perhaps. Sandwiches. I fucking love sandwiches. But then there's that familial love, the kind of love that you have for your children, the kind of love that compels you to send your only begotten son to earth to be brutally sacrificed to save all the other children from eternally burning in hell. That kind of love, maybe.
Yes, not really the kind of love that I really find moral. You even see this picture of this story in the Old Testament with Abraham, God coming to him and saying, if you love me, basically, you're going to sacrifice your son because he wants to demonstrate that he loves God more than his own son. I mean, what kind of a God needs you to demonstrate that you love him more by sacrificing your own son, or even putting that thought in his head? That's abhorrent.
Well, it's such a weird thing, too. Christians today will point back at Abraham and Isaac and say this is foreshadowing Jesus. Sure. Abraham couldn't, and then God did. But the thing of it is, Abraham was going to until the angel of Yahweh stopped him, according to the story. Accounts vary on what the story originally said, but that's a topic for another time. But then God didn't. Right? He let Jesus die, and what would have showed the power and glory of God better than pulling him off the cross and healing them in full sight of all the witnesses? But never mind that. He didn't let Jesus stay dead, though. He unsacrificed him. So Abraham loves God more than God loves humanity, because Abraham was willing to sacrifice his at the time only son.
Yes. Yes. And God says at the very end, he's like, oh, now I know that, they'll do really? That's just weird in itself, of course. Now I know. So I mean, did God not know? There's that whole argument too. The God know. We just had on our show, the Deacon Version, is the whole conversation about how God knows if you're going to choose him or not. But he doesn't actually, stop it or anything, because it's your still responsibility to make the decision. But it's like, well, I thought God knew, and then all of a sudden, here in this case, now I know. Did he know? Did he not know? Very strange. They call that anthropomorphisms, because that's God always gets an explanation for things in the Bible.
I'm curious about what God does know and what God doesn't know. Like there's the dogmatic assertion that God knows all. He's omniscient and so forth. But the God in the Bible is a little different. The God in the Bible, he runs into Abraham on the way to go investigate rumors of how they're treating strangers in Sodom and Gomorrah, because he doesn't know. He has to go look physically walking down the road. And Abraham says, well, what are you going to do if they're misbehaving? He says, well, I shall smite them. I'll level the city. I'll make it into a parking lot. Not that you know what that is, Abraham. That's a future thing. I'm all-knowing, so I know this. And Abraham goes, but what about the good people in the city? Would you not spare the city for the sake of 50 good people? And Yahweh says, now that you mention it, and I'm thinking about it, just now that you have mentioned it, I would spare the city for the sake of 50, yes. And then Abraham says, well, what if it's only 40? Would you kill the 40 for lacking 10? And Yahweh says, now that you mention it, now that I think about it just now, yes, I would save the 40 for being 10 short. And then so on. Abraham dickers him down until they get to 10. He negotiates with God and convinces God, changes God's mind, the all-knowing God, that 10 is the proper number. But God still has to go look because he doesn't know.
Right. Well, if you're a loving God, you'd think you could spare Abraham all the torturous negotiating and just be like, hey, dude, just let you know, you're going to try all this negotiating. At the end of the day, I'm just going to go with 10. So, that would have been a nice thing to do, but he doesn't do that.
He should already know how many there are. And this is not the first time. Well, okay, maybe it's the first time, but it's not the only time that he does something like that. Like, for example, on top of Mount Sinai, where he's giving the commandments, and Moses goes down and he sees the golden calf, and Yahweh is pissed. Oh, these stiff-necked people, I will smite them for their insolence. And Moses said, Lord, think about what the other gods will think. Consider for a moment your reputation among all the other gods if they find out you have delivered this people from Egypt only to destroy them here.
Right.
And God says, oh, yes, I must be careful of my reputation among the other gods. Very well, I shall only smite half of them.
Right.
But not the guy who was leading them, though.
Right. Yeah. He takes him out later.
Godly love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, here we are. We're knocking the love of God, the love in the Bible, the foreknowledge of God even. Look, if you're a Christian, we want your help because we're struggling to understand how God can be loving. And we're going to keep talking about that, but we'd rather talk to you. We'd rather you help us understand how God is actually loving and explain that to us so we can know whether not only if God exists, but, if he does, is he really that loving? Because currently, even if I were to be convinced that God does exist, he's a moral monster, and I would have no interest in worshiping him anyway. So I would like you to help me understand why I should worship this God if he's actually loving. And I'm sure Ember would as well. So call in. Numbers 898. Sorry, let's say that again. Numbers 984-400-5656. We would love to talk to you. Ember, let's go back to the Garden of Eden even.
Sure.
I can't imagine that if I'm a father, a creator even, and I have this foreknowledge of what's going to happen, I don't think I need to put my kids through a torturous test to find out if they're going to obey me or not. Why would I want to do something that's going to cause them to fail? That is not even a good way to teach a child anything. You want to give them ways to succeed, and then when they fail, help instruct them as to how be better people. But to intentionally put a test in front of them that they're absolutely going to fail, that just seems like it's more harmful than good.
Well, I mean, it's a thing that humans do sometimes, right? Like the parents who will put the cookie jar on the middle of the table and say, "Don't touch," and then walk out of the room. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Well, but I would say that that's
humans
not
aren't
really,
God.
they're not really testing the child, in a failure sense. They're actually telling the child, I actually don't want you to do this. I mean, I suppose if you're putting it there as an intentional test, maybe I wouldn't do that. But at any rate, I mean, I suppose that can be argued for, maybe.
It's a possibility. Although I have a pet hypothesis.
Yeah.
What if this all-knowing thing is just propaganda, right? Like, there's a few places one could point to where God clearly lacks knowledge, where he has to go look at things, he has to go check on things for himself. It happens a couple of times in Eden, but also there's right after the flood, God didn't know humans would become corrupt. He didn't realize what would happen if he flooded the earth and destroyed them. He regretted it immediately after, although being all powerful, he didn't do anything to fix it, but never mind that. Like, there's a lot of places. So I wonder, what if he doesn't actually have this all-knowing thing? It's just attributed to him, sort of like the love thing is just attributed to him, but his actions demonstrate that's not true. And the reason he doesn't have perfect knowledge is because he had this tree called the tree of knowledge, and somebody took his fruit. So he never got to eat of the tree of knowledge.
Oh, that's interesting. Man, so he screwed himself from the beginning.
It was a bad plan.
Wow. Genesis right out the gate, man. Genesis 2, he messes this whole thing up. Wow. Plants a tree.
In fairness,
that's funny.
it was only his sixth day on the job. He was pretty new at it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Well, he apparently was pretty pissed because he puts his children right immediately into slavery. If you think about it, they're enslaved to sin right away. They make this one mistake, and not only are they enslaved to sin, but all of their posterity forever, because you tick God off. He seems very small-minded.
Property-oriented God, and this is another question about divine love, right? Like, as Paul tells us, it doesn't matter if you're slave or free or man or woman or whatever, because everyone is a slave to God. So for God, it's not about loving your children. It's about, you are my property. I will do with you as I see fit, because you're just possessions to me, no different than the garden or the earth or whatever. And is that what love looks like? I know there's a lot of humans who also treat their children as if they're property, but I don't think that's exactly perfectly moral or loving, really.
No, it's not. That brings us right to slavery when you think about it, because I mean, that's God gives explicit commands on how to own slaves in the Old Testament, and he tells them that they're his property. They can be your property for life. You can pass them on to your children, and there's plenty of laws in the Old Testament that speak specifically about how to own slaves properly. It's just, it's amazing to me how many Christians will try to defend slavery in the Old Testament, try to make it out to be something it isn't, because they know full well that it goes against their own moral conscience. They know that this is not appropriate, and so you got to defend God at all costs and try to wiggle yourself out of it. But there is no wiggling out of it. It is very abundantly clear that God condones slavery. And instead of just saying, hey, guys, here's an idea, let's not own slaves like everybody around us, apparently the best he could do was improve on slavery. I mean, I don't see him improving on eating shellfish. He just fucking tells them to do it. So, I mean, I don't understand why slavery couldn't also be a command just as much as, don't envy or don't steal. Like, it's mind blowing to me. In fact, if you think about it, when God condones slavery in the Old Testament, the argument oftentimes is, when you get to the New Testament, though, it reverses. The Apostle Paul supposedly makes a case through Philemon, the book of Philemon, that he's supposedly reverses slavery. First of all, it doesn't actually say that anywhere in the text. I would vehemently argue that Paul is not condoning or arguing against slavery. But interestingly, if in fact Paul is reversing slavery in the New Testament, the question we have to ask is, why? Why is Paul reversing slavery? Why is Paul speaking out against slavery? It's because obviously God condoned it in the Old Testament, or else there would be no need to fix it. So to argue that it wasn't condoned in the Old Testament and then turn around and say Paul had to fix it, why does he have to fix it? God's clearly condoning it.
It's the patch notes. It's we have a new DLC.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is you see that Jesus talks about being set free from slavery to sin and death, right? And so that supposedly fixes the problem in the garden. But interestingly, in that same passage, it's in Romans chapter, I want to say chapter 6, I think it is. He turns around, he says, so that you can be slaves of righteousness, slaves of God. So you're not removing slavery. You're just trading one slavery for another. You're not slaves of sin anymore. Now you're slaves of Jesus. And the apostles have no problem calling them slaves of Christ in the Bible. So anyway, I know I'm harping on slavery, but the reason is because how is this loving? How is it loving to be property of somebody? Even if you think being property of Jesus is a wonderful thing, you're still property. That's not wonderful.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't get exactly why people find the idea of being a slave to God comforting. Maybe because it's you're acknowledging you're his property, so he will keep you safe from Satan, from hellfire. I don't know, but there's a book I read a while back called Escape from Freedom by Eric Fromm, coincidentally, no relation, I guess. But his thesis is that basically Loki and the Avengers is right, that some humans, if not all humans, prefer to have control from above because it frees them of the burdens of having to worry about those higher level things. Like if you've got a functioning dictatorship that takes care of the military and the taxes and keeping the scary other people away, then you can focus on your everyday experience of making sure you're at church on time and correcting your children when they say bad things about dear leader and so forth. You can focus on the things that you really care about, your everyday life, without those worries about freedom and advancement as a society.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, sure. So basically get rid of your own mind and rights to make decisions about things so that you can be at home and essentially just be more obedient, doing the things that you're supposed to do at home. I mean, now we're going to get into morality, and that's a whole nother subject altogether, because it's mind-blowing to me how many Christians think that they're moral agents by saying that God's their objective standard without even questioning what he says. That's not morality at all. You can't be moral and be a Christian. It's impossible if you're going to hold on to God being the objective standard. But hey, maybe you're listening to this show and you're like, hey, that's a topic I'm interested in. 984-400-5656. We would love to hear from you, because even morality is not the supposed objective morality of God. That is not loving. It really isn't. Because if God comes to you and he tells you that you have to do something that's against your own moral conscience, I talked about this on Friday at the Deconversionist. There's a command about stoning in the Bible. You're supposed to stone your wife if you find out she's not a virgin, or to stone your children if they're not obedient to you and you can't get them under control. I mean, first of all, do we know what stoning is? I mean, it is so unjust to stone somebody. It's disproportional to any crime or sin. But it's interesting that if God comes to you and he says, hey, I want you to stone your wife because she's not a virgin, like, would you do it? It's unlikely anybody would do that, because it goes against their own moral conscience, but they will still defend God in the Old Testament for making that command. It just doesn't make any sense. Do I see that we have yeah, we do. $10 from Bryce Aroni. Thank you for your donation here. We really appreciate it, for the super chat. He says, the Bible God is clearly not all-knowing. Genesis 18:20-21. I will go down and see if what Sodom has done as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. God can learn things. Yes, indeed. It seems that's the case. But again, the argument is always it's an anthropomorphism. God is just speaking in human language. I've been talking for a while. Ember, do you want to respond to anything that I've said so far, or anything?
Yeah, you're pretty much on track as far as I can see. This idea of God, there's a lot that can be said, but you're right. It does seem to always delve into morality. No matter where you touch on, it's going to get sucked into morality, which is wild because, as you've mentioned, this God is deeply immoral. We have a friend, Eric, whose channel Skeptics and Scoundrels first came to fame because he posed in a video, "What if God killed one less child? If you were God and you still did all the moral horrors that God did, you did the flood, you did the conquest of Canaan, whatever, and you ordered or directly caused the death of one fewer child, you are more moral than this God. You have done less evil and therefore are more moral. So how can this God be perfectly moral if there's room for improvement?"
Totally agree. Absolutely. So Matthew 22, I read that at the intro. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. If you combine the commands from different harmony of the Gospels there, but the second command is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. So, how do you obey the second commandment that's like it, to love your neighbor as yourself? So, essentially, you want to if you're loving yourself, which there's an assumption in that command that you already love yourself, and so you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. He's not saying go learn to love yourself. He's saying, hey, love your neighbor as you already love yourself. So when we love ourselves, we want to be healthy. We want to have food on our table. We want to have a roof over our head. We want to be taken care of. We want to do things that make us happy. These are the ways we love ourselves. So how do you love your neighbor as yourself? Well, theoretically, you provide the same things to your neighbor. So you're supposed to love them in the same exact way. But the problem is you have that love your neighbor as yourself. As is a word that means to the same degree, to the same extent, to the same level. So how do you possibly do all the things for your neighbor to the same degree that you do for yourself if you're doing them for your neighbor? You can't, because you're doing it all for your neighbor. So this command becomes impossible to do if standing alone, which is why commandment number 1 stands first and foremost, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So the theory of this command is that when I love God, he becomes everything I need. And so his love goes through me, and now I can give everything away to my neighbor that I would otherwise want, because God's already providing for me everything that I need. And it sounds wonderful at first. It sounds, oh, well, that's delightful. See, this is great. The problem with it is when you are giving something to your neighbor, like if I'm okay, so the problem is these two commands can only work in Christianity. They won't work outside of Christianity. Because if I want, as a Christian, if I believe that loving myself looks like submitting to God, then it only makes sense that loving my neighbor means telling them that submitting to God is necessary for them, because that's the best way to live. Mm-hmm. So you can't actually do this command without demanding your neighbor to submit or else to God. If I were to love my neighbor as myself without the first commandment, to love God first and submit to him first, then in theory, if I'm a Christian, I should then also say to my atheist friend, hey, I should love you the way I should love you the way I love myself. And what I love is I want you to do what I believe is true. I want you to submit to God. But if I'm not doing that first commandment, I'm just supposed to follow the second one, then I should in turn, for my atheist friend, say, but because you want me to be an atheist, I'm going to be an atheist, because that's the loving thing to do. It's illogical. The commandment doesn't work, because you can't actually, it's like a mirror effect. You can't possibly give to the other person what they want you to do if you absolutely believe the exact opposite of what you think is loving. It just doesn't work. Does that make it? What's that?
It's a paradox.
It is, exactly. I didn't know if you were trying. I hope I made some sense there, because sometimes I go on rambles and I have no idea what I even said.
You get raveled and you're unraveling?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a weird thing, because if you have that first priority of God first above all things, then you're kind of stuck. Like, you can love your neighbor as yourself in a whole bunch of different ways. Although I'd argue there's problems with that. Like, what if you're into some kinky nonsense and maybe your neighbor isn't? Then that would be rude. You should at least ask first, or buy them a drink, something.
Right.
But if you're focused on the basics, like make sure they have sandwiches or goats or whatever might be in short supply, make sure they have the basics to survive, and then hopefully go on to thrive. In principle, this works, because if everyone is helping the weakest, then eventually you reach an equilibrium and everybody starts to advance together. And cool. But if you're putting God first, you can't do that, because there's that constant drain on your resources. You're constantly having to proselytize or go conquer something or enslave someone. And how can someone be equal if you're enslaving them? Or you're sacrificing your firstborn bulls and your doves and the grains of your field and all this stuff. It's not all bad, of course. There's that commandment about leaving a portion of your grain for the homeless who have no food and so forth. It's not all bad ideas, but trying to carry them all out at once, you get stuck. It doesn't work.
Right. So the command by itself doesn't work for all the reasons you just expressed. Sure, you can get lucky doing this command, and sometimes it works out good for your neighbor. But following it to its extent, especially in light of just submitting to God or else, that commandment just doesn't work. It is the most unloving way to love somebody, because if you're just walking around telling everybody that God's all you just need to submit to God, that's not a very good way, especially if God's commanding slavery. Like, what? Or God's commanding you to stone your wife or your children. What? How is this loving? That doesn't even make sense. So this commandment is a terrible way to live. Better that we live by a humanistic type of love, which I would just call empathy. Empathy is a far better way to show love than God's way, because Christian love is absolutely abhorrent. It doesn't work. Empathy always works if you genuinely care about what they do need, not what you tell them they need. There's a big difference between. So I saw another super chat pop up there. Let's take a look at that. Ember, do you want to read this one?
Sure. Let's see. We've got $20 from Bryce Aroni. Thank you so much. Remember, folks, Skeptic Haven is a nonprofit. All the support, whether it's through Patreon, super chats, whatever the case may be, it goes to like running the phone lines and things. So we very, very much appreciate those. Bryce says, 1 Corinthians 13, love is kind. It is not self-seeking. It keeps no record of wrongs. God sends bears to maul kids, created all things for him, and judges the dead by their deeds as recorded in the book. God is not love.
Indeed.
These descriptions do not match. And I also love the bear reference, because that's another one. Like, love is patient, love is kind, love endures all things. And then here's God sending bears to go mess up some kids. Like, these are not the same thing.
Right. So maybe you have a better way to explain the love of God and Christian love. We'd love to hear from it. 984-400-5656. Love to talk to you. I know there's a lot of Christians out there that are sitting there saying, man, I don't believe what these guys are saying. I think they're wrong. I think I can correct them. Hey, come on, let's talk. We're not here to bite your head off. We'd actually like to hear you. We'd like to hear what you have to say. Sure, if we think there's fallacies in your thinking, we'll respond and have a dialogue. But we just want to talk. We want to hear why you think this God is loving. So please give us a call. Another super chat. I think I saw one pop up there again.
Maybe.
I think I did.
I'm not seeing one, but I don't have the producer buttons.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, occasionally the producers will highlight a regular chat. Sometimes they just want to show it on screen. Sometimes they want us to address it, and it's hard to tell which.
Gotcha. Ascend apologetics. Will language be used in these debates? Need to know because of present children. My apologies if we're not supposed to. I did earlier, so I don't know how Let's Talk works, but I don't see any reason why we can't preserve the show tonight, at least without using any. So yes, thanks for the request. I see no reason why we will need to use language like that. So is that cool with you, Ember, or is that?
I mean, I am a literal sailor, but I try sometimes.
So is this? I guess I don't know. Let's talk. Like, do we just normally just let it fly, or do we normally? I don't know how that works on the show.
We don't go to any specific lengths. It's more about the comfort of the comfort level of the hosts.
Okay.
So we have different hosts every week. If there's a policy, I don't know what it is, but it's YouTube. This isn't for kids content. But on the other hand, we don't go out of our way to have an obscenity fest either, you know?
I think that's fair. So just be aware that if a word slips, it just may happen. So it's not a kid's show, and I suppose that's the way we'll have to leave that. But in my opinion, we can do our best and just see how it goes. But you know, it's one of those times in our lives where we get to just be free and not have to live by some social etiquette of some sort. So I kind of enjoy that part of being on these shows. But anyway, hope that answers your question as best as we can. Anyway, all right, back to love. So what are some other ways that we see the love of God come through so delightfully, Ember?
Oh goodness. There's so many examples. The one that immediately springs to mind is how David annoyed God that one time by doing a census after God told him to do a census, and so David had to be punished. And for that reason, he did nothing to David, and instead he killed one of David's children because he loves the little children, doesn't he? If I remember how that story went correctly, I'm not entirely sure.
The story of which story are you talking about? David and what?
David did a. I can't even remember which book it's in, but it's there's the census, and then the child dies over the course of like 7 days because God has given it the plagues or the poxes or what have you. It'd probably be easier to just look it up.
I'm not familiar with. I can't remember that particular story, at least the way I'm hearing it, but I'm sure it's there. I have no doubt. If it's something horrible, I'm sure it's in the Bible somewhere.
There's so many things that we can't possibly know all of them. But yeah, I've never been the kind of minister who knows like the whole thing by verse and chapter. I wish I had Justin's superpowers, but it's just not where my forte lies, you know?
Me both. I wish I had that power too. Yeah. Well, and the problem is when I was a Christian, when I was a pastor, I definitely could have had most of the text that I needed to reference right off the top of my head. But, after 6 years now of not reading the Bible at all, because it just doesn't interest me anymore at all, you just lose it. You start to forget stuff. Well, at least I do. I don't have a photographic memory, so I tend to forget things. I can't even remember what I wore yesterday, so it's a little tough for me to remember Bible verses from more than 6 years ago. But I try. But you're right. It's easy to just reference. That's one beautiful thing about having the internet. You can just jump on and find stuff. So
sometimes, yes. All right. So it seems I'm mixing together two stories, both from 2 Samuel. One was King David ordered a census of Israel, and God's anger burned greatly against Israel because David took a census of the fighting men as commanded by God. And the general, Joab, knew this would bring trouble, saying, "Why does my Lord King want to do such a thing?" And as soon as David did it, he too knew that it was a great sin. God's wrath was so stirred up that 70,000 people died as a result. But interestingly, the biblical account never explains why it is a sin. The other story that I was mixing it with is also 2 Samuel in 2 Samuel 12, which is about the affair with Bathsheba. So Bathsheba's infant son, the prophet Nathan confronts David and says, because David has displeased the Lord with his adulterous actions, the child would die and the sword would never depart from David's house, which is incidentally why Jesus draws his line of descent directly to David, because you know what? It's not important. The point is, the child took 7 days to die because of something David did. And using that trick of wearing sackcloth and abasing yourself did not dissuade the Lord this time. Oh no, he'd figured out humans were getting out of punishment by doing this one weird trick. And so he turned off the hacks. The mod was no longer working. The child had to be killed, because killing children is functionally what this God is all about.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Kill the child so that David feels punished instead of letting the child live and killing David. Like, I don't know. I don't get that at all. But anyway, we do have our first caller.
Hooray.
Pop him in. Let's go. I think his name is Bryce. I think that's who's calling. I'm going to guess it's probably Bryce Aroni, but I'm not sure if it's the same Bryce. So, Bryce, what are you calling in about?
Hey, thanks for having me. Yes, it is Bryce Aroni. I was just calling because number one, I'm an atheist, so I'm a friendly. If you guys get a real adversarial caller, feel free to kick me. But I did want to call in because this has always been a subject I've been interested in as a former Christian apologist before I deconstructed and got out of it. One of the things that helped me do that was having an atheist challenge me with 1 Corinthians 13. And, I was coming from the perspective that, God is love. You grow up hearing that all the time, 1 John, and it's just repeated in the Bible. But I never stopped to question whether or not what is said in the Bible matches God's actions in the Bible. And then someone pointed out to me, well, the Bible actually describes what love is. It gives a list of, how it defines love in 1 Corinthians. Have you considered whether God meets the Bible's own criteria? And I really struggled with that. And I read it over and over again. And each passage, it's 1 Corinthians 13 verses 4-8, but it lists all these things that love is. God doesn't meet any of them. And I had a real problem with that because, well, how do I explain this? How do I reconcile God being love with, this idea that love is patient, love is kind? Well, if love is patient and love is kind, then God wouldn't be getting angry at the drop of a dime as soon as he sees people sinning and wants to destroy them. Moses had to talk them off of a ledge and prevent them from destroying the Israelites as soon as they started worshiping a golden calf. That's not very patient. That this idea that he sent she-bears to maul children for calling a guy a name. Well, that's not very kind. This idea that God does not envy, except that he punishes the people to the third or fourth generation if they're worshiping other gods. God does not boast, but clearly he's doing a whole monologue of boasting to Job in Job 38. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? He's doing all of these things that it says that it says love doesn't do, which was very problematic to me. And then the kind of the thing that was the final straw, at least on this issue, it keeps no record of wrongs. Well, clearly Revelation 20 says God keeps records of wrongs. He has a book of the dead, he has a book of life, and people are judged according to what's written in the book. Well, that's not consistent with love, and so that was a real struggle for me. I don't know how many Christians actually think about this. And just using the Bible alone, you can use the Bible to disprove the Bible. You can't use it to prove the Bible because that's circular, but you can certainly see contradictions and use it to disprove itself. And that was kind of one of the things that led me out of it. So
interesting.
That basically.
Yeah, Bryce. So everything you're saying is very interesting, and theoretically, everything you just said should be enough to lead anybody out of Christianity. Problem is, and I just did my most recent Unravelation episode that's going to be releasing on Monday. I think it's the one on Monday. It's one of the next couple ones. Is that when we are brought into Christianity, we are indoctrinated to a degree that we are to never question the integrity of God when it comes to confliction like this. When we see these problems, the automatic assumption is, well, I must be wrong. God can't possibly be wrong. And so it creates that defense mechanism that's built into the religion. So you become blind to seeing any of the problems that you're seeing with God correlating with love. So even if you take a Christian, you show them 1 Corinthians 13 and then ask them, let's go through the Bible now and let's look at all these instances and you tell me if this God matches love. There's blinders. It's the same reason why when I talk to Christians about slavery, it's like it's amazing how they cannot just let they can't just let God be unjust in this case. They can't just say, yeah, God's just wrong. No, we're misunderstanding it. Somehow we're just not seeing it clearly. God is always, defended. So everything you're saying is right. The struggle is that Christianity has built in such a level of brainwashing that you have to get rid of that first for a Christian to even see these conflicting ideas. But I appreciate all you're saying. It's absolutely on point. Ember, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the very first thing I noticed about the Bible was its internal contradictions. It's wild. I remember being in Scouts as a child, meeting in a church basement, and posted on the wall of the basement were the 10 commandments. And the very first commandment is, you shall have no other gods before me. Well, here I'd been hearing my entire short life, there's only one true God. And here's that God saying there are other gods. So what's going on? Like those two things alone, the very first thing I encounter from the religion directly contradicts an ultimate truth about the religion. It's all contradictions all the way down.
One of the things I noticed, one of the things I noticed, and this is something that you notice after deconstructing, is how Christian doctrine and Christian theology is not necessarily biblical. You have the theology, which most people kind of start off with. This is what you're taught in church. This is what your pastors are preaching before you can even, open a Bible. You're directed to certain Bible verses that kind of reinforce what the theology is. And I think most Christians just don't actually read their Bible. They don't read it in context. They don't read it from front to back. They read it, they cherry pick it because the theology kind of directs you to do that. But when you actually read the scripture, you find that a lot of these theological ideas are just made up. They're not biblical. The idea that there is only one God, I mean, I can see how you can cherry pick certain passages to get there, but all in all, it's not what the Bible says. The Bible clearly mentions that there's multiple gods. There's no need for the commandment of having no other gods before me if the Hebrews or whoever the authors of the Old Testament was believed that there was only one God. There's passages in the Bible where God talks about judging the other gods. Clearly, it's a polytheistic religion, at least as its source was, and then it kind of morphed into something else after that, and then that's what the theology represents. But the theology and the Bible are two different things, which is why there are so many contradictions. You don't see this when you're in it because, let's be real, how many Christians are actually reading their Bible, from front to back? I read it. I know more about it now that I'm an atheist than I ever did when I was a Christian apologist.
Yeah, we can see the calls lined up. We're going to finish with Bryce here in just a second. I do see that we have Karen coming in, so I'll take that in just a second.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, you got to keep
Bryce,
me.
I just want to say, I think you're absolutely right. Psalm 82, for example, there's the Council of the Gods that meet around. It's like the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table going on there. So there's no doubt about it that there was other gods. It was definitely polytheistic in that way. Yahweh was just the supreme one, and he gave them, the other nations to rule or whatever, and then they didn't rule them in his honor. They didn't make the nation submit to him, and so he got all pissed and killed all the rest of the gods too. It's a great story. I mean, I actually saw all that as a Christian. I was kind of in that camp. It's probably one of the reasons why I got out is just studying the Bible. Eventually, like you kind of get to a point where you start to unravel so many of the things, and you're like, wait a second, something's fishy here. So anyway, man,
you have to be intellectually honest to do it, though. That's the thing. You have to be willing to look at what it says and compare it to what is true. You have to be looking for the truth. If you're a Christian who's already decided what is true, then that means you're no longer looking for it, and you'll never find it.
You're absolutely true. When I was a Christian, even as a pastor, I used to tell my congregation, I used to teach them something called fluid dogma. I used to say, obviously, we all believe certain things, and we're naturally going to be dogmatic about them because we think they're true. But you got to throw fluidity in there, and you got to recognize that new information is going to present itself, and you always have to be open to insert that new information into whatever you believe. And if it changes that whole belief system, so be it, because truth is more important than your dogma. And I used to even say, if it turned out that atheism was right and true, then I would become an atheist. I didn't think that was ever going to happen because, as a Christian, you just don't think it's possible that God doesn't exist. but I was willing. Because to me, what's the point of living a lie? Like, what a waste of life. Even if you hate what's true, you might as well embrace it and make the most of it, because pretending like, something isn't true that is a waste of time. So we're going to move on to the next caller. But Ember, did you have anything else to say before we move on?
I could go on, but I'm good. Thank you so much, Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce, thanks for calling. Have a great night, buddy.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Yep, have a good show.
Call back anytime. All right, we got Karen from Pennsylvania. When leaders make bad choices, lots of people die. Before we go into that, Karen, she, her, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I am from Pennsylvania too. I'm excited to know what part you're from.
Poconos.
Poconos. Okay. I'm in Bally, so
Yeah.
We're not very far from each other.
No. And I saw the previous caller was from Pennsylvania as well.
Oh, Bryce is from Pennsylvania? I didn't see that.
Ron? Wasn't that the? Yeah.
Oh, he is.
It
Says it right there. I totally missed that.
Yeah, we're rolling today.
I missed the opportunity to ask him what part. Do you know where he's from?
No, I just saw that when it came up on the scroll on the bottom of the channel that it said that he was from Pennsylvania.
I'm totally bummed that I missed that. Hey, Bryce, if you're still watching, shoot me an email, Alan, ALAN, @unravelation.com. You can as well, Karen, if you'd like it, because people local like that, that's pretty awesome. Anyway, back to your question, though, or your comments. When leaders make bad choices, lots of people die. Is that what you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I mean, what struck me was when we were talking about in the Bible that people make a decision and a whole bunch of people are killed because of it. And it goes back to as far as Job, when it's like, okay, let's test Job and his love for me, and, his kids die. Because I don't know if Job was supposed to surrender or whatever, or if David as a leader decided to do something and then other people died. But we're still living this. This has never gone away. We have people deciding to go to war and bomb places, and whether it's, I'll go back further, even like we decide to bomb a country or do something, there's a lot of innocent people that are dying there, or senators or other people make decisions about what they want to do with budgets and people die because of that. I mean, if people wouldn't take it literally and just see the principle that when people in power, if they don't take everyone and everything into consideration, even the people they don't like or don't love, everybody suffers. As soon as you start othering, everybody suffers. So anyway, that was just my idea when you were talking about that. And the other thing I didn't tell him before when I came on is, like, in the Jewish tradition, it's more a matter of what is hateful to you, do not do unto others. This is the whole of the law. And that's a little bit different than do unto others what you want done for them, but rather than restrain yourself from harming other people if you don't like to be harmed in that way. So it's just a little twist on it. Well, but anyway,
that's a better twist for sure, because when you talk about morality, we're talking about not harming and bringing greatest possible well-being. So, yeah, Ember, I'm gonna let you take this first. Go ahead.
Yeah, the mention of what's going on, like not even gods, just rulers, appointed by gods or not. We've got what's going on right now, and one of the very first things that happened is the U.S. military blew up a girls' school, and over 100 children were killed. Leaders make bad choices, people die. This is not controversial. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
It doesn't make it right just because it happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of the reasons that we need to choose our leaders responsibly. If we're given the ability, if we fought and died for the ability to choose our own leaders instead of just whoever survives the succession after the previous king dies kind of thing, then it is incumbent upon us. It's a civic responsibility to choose someone who isn't an egomaniacal, brain-rotted, I'm trying to mind my language, horrible choice.
Well, we might choose better leaders if we realize that, the first leader we're choosing named God is not exactly a good choice. But, Christian nationalism is at its worst right now, and it's really quite frustrating. So, yeah.
Right, because they don't love other people. They do things that are hateful that they themselves would not want done. Like they would not want to be in cages. They would not want to be separated from children. You know what I mean? Like not so much in the loving part, but not doing what's hateful. Even if we could start there, I think that would be a step up for humanity. If we could just.
Sure. That's a huge difference between being good might be beyond the reach of some people, especially the people who make it their career to try to be politicians, who lust after those levers of power. But maybe not being hateful would be a step up. It's a start, at least. Let's get up to neutral and then aspire towards good.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's
okay. That's all I had.
Okay,
Thank you, Karen.
All right, I'm going to get off now. I love hearing you talk. Okay.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate you calling. Man, I got to tell you, Ember, that's pretty awesome. I don't think I've ever had anybody say they enjoy hearing me talk. So I'll take that one.
I mean, people do tune in to your show.
Well, that's true. But sometimes I think it's because they're tuning into Elliot, but who knows? I think I just either lost Ember or you lost me. Who did we lose? I just want to make sure. Oh, there she is again. I'm not sure if I lost. Pop, somebody say something in the private chat. Am I still live or is Ember still live? I think we lost somebody. Okay, so I'm still here. Okay, good.
Okay, now I'm in a tiny window. You were still live. I was raptured briefly, and they realized they made a terrible mistake.
When that happened, you missed it. I was in the fetal position because I was scared that I missed the rapture again.
We need a schedule. Like, I understand that the whole point is to jump scare us with Jesus or something, but like we're trying to do shit down here, and so maybe send a memo. I mean, the Bible tells us there's supposed to be warnings, wars and rumors of war. Wait a second. Oh, scoffers, mockers, and wait, hold on, never mind.
Right.
There must be something that will tell us.
Yes. Another comment, dude. I just want to piggyback on what Karen was talking about in that last comment. It's interesting. I'm sorry if you hear that. That's water. I happen to have the water tank in my office, so sometimes water starts running and it makes this weird noise. I got to figure out a way to silence that. But anyway, I hope it's not too distracting. I probably made it more distracting than it was. Anyway.
You dry-sanded it.
Yeah. But hey, there's something else to call about. Don't like the water in my room? Call us, 984-400-5656. We'd love to hear from you in a loving way as to why you hate the water in my office. That would be really, really awesome. But please call in. We'd love to have more callers to talk to, especially Christians. Come on, where are you guys at? We would love to hear you defend the love of God. Or maybe there's nothing to defend, and you're aware of that, and so you can't call in. We understand if that's the case.
But Jesus hates water.
Jesus hates water. Okay, this is a good one. He likes wine better. What's this?
Yeah, that's how the walking on water trick happened. Okay, more precisely, water hates Jesus because he did the thing with John the Baptist. He got dunked, and the Holy Spirit came over and did the thing. The once was enough. Water was like never again, and so every time Jesus even so much as tried to step foot into water to dip a pinky toe in, it rejected him. It could walk on water. The water would not let him in. Mm-hmm.
That is interesting. You make a good point. Even when he was in that storm that all the disciples were scared about, he was just asleep in the back of the boat. And as soon as he woke up, he was like, stop, and things stopped, left him alone. Water is scared of him. In fact, when he's at a wedding, he takes all his water, and water gets scared and turns into wine. I tell you, you're right. You're onto something. Maybe that's how these miracles happen. Water is scared of Jesus, not because Jesus has power. Ember, you might be onto something.
We're cracking the code, folks.
Absolutely. We were talking about putting people in cages and things of the sort. It's inhumane type things, almost like, not even as bad, but, similar to in concept to the stoning of the Old Testament or enslaving people or whatever. These are things that you would consider unmerciful, unkind, the kind of things that that Bryce Roney was talking about. How can you possibly say that these acts are loving? But when you defend a God that's willing to do these things, and you can shut your mind off to these texts in the Bible and continue to defend this abhorrent, immoral God, it's no wonder these Christian nationalists can be okay with the garbage that we're seeing in this world. Like, it's just mind-blowing to me, but it's at least consistent. At least you're consistently acting immoral. But you're not being moral agents. You don't have a moral bone in your body if you're just doing what God says. If you're just, hey, God said it, so I'm just going to do it. That's not morality. That's obedience. They're entirely different.
Right. Morality is when you stand up for something. What we're looking at is it's cowardice. It's saying, oh, thy will before mine, Lord, please don't hurt me. Yep. It's like, it's not even out of love for God. It's not even, I love this God so much I must serve him the way the Greeks did. If you decided to be a parishioner of the Church of Apollo or the Temple of Hera or whatever, it wasn't because you were like, this God vibes with me and I want to devote my life to this work. No. In this religion, it's fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Where is love? Can you love someone and fear them at the same time? I'm not sure it's possible. If you think it is, call in and tell us. Well, I'd love to hear that.
And the irony is it, for some reason, I can't recall if it was Peter, Paul, or Jesus himself that said perfect love casts out fear. Or it might have been John, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I think it's John. Perfect love casts out fear, to your point. And, if God is perfect love, then why are people afraid of him? Like, maybe it's because he's an abhorrent monster. And I wouldn't want to be under his rule. I'll tell you that. We got super chat from Bryce Aroni, $2. Thank you so much for continuing to support Skeptic Haven. Again, as Ember said, just in case anybody missed it, it is nonprofits, and all the proceeds go to be continuing to be able to provide great shows such as this. He says Philadelphia. I'm guessing. Oh, Philadelphia, where he's from. Got it. City of brotherly love. Speaking of love, what a good transition. Philadelphia, also very close to me. My gosh, this is exciting. You got to shoot me an email, man. We got to find a way to get together. I think that would be really awesome. You're like literally 30 minutes from me, and I love Philly. So let's hang out.
We're having Pennsylvania adventures today, I guess. And the whole show is the Northeast because I'm just one state up.
Where are you at?
I'm in New York. Not that New York, the other part of New York.
Not that New York, but the other New York? What's the other?
When you say New York, everyone immediately starts thinking of skyscrapers in Broadway and Central Park and whatnot. And that's 5 hours away from me. I'm probably closer to you than I am to Manhattan.
What part are you in? Like Buffalo or what? Where are you at?
In the middle.
In the middle. Okay. I used to live in New City, New York, which is just about 30 minutes north of the city limits. So I lived upstate as well for a while. I went to Word of Life Bible Institute right up there in Scruton Lake, New York. You familiar with that?
Nope.
Okay. It's this little tiny. As soon as you drive in, you practically drive out. But Word of Life. Yeah, we have some down here too. But yeah, Word of Life Bible Institute. That was an interesting experience. A very dispensational school. That's where I got my initial formal education. But yeah,
mine was with the Universalists, which is, for anybody who's not familiar, it's everyone is saved because Jesus already died for everyone.
Yes.
It's not a bad way to look at things if you have to be in the Christian sphere, I suppose.
Well, I mean, if he didn't resurrect, then, I guess if he's going to die and, stay dead, if he did anything at all, at least he brought everybody together. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe that was what he accomplished.
Strange looking at it from the outside. It's a strange perspective, because if everyone is saved, you don't have to worship Jesus to be saved. You're already saved. Then what is the religion even for? It seems like the whole story of original sin, it is now a moot point, and we can just put it in a history book and move on, you know?
Yup. Well, you know, I find it interesting that here we are talking about probably the central element of Christianity, the love of God, because that's what you have. You're supposed to have the most greatest love on earth. And we have pretty much tore it down, showed how God is unloving, showed how it's impossible to be empathetic with Christian love, and yet no Christian callers to defend God. Interesting.
Poor God. No one loves him enough to call in. Why doesn't God call in? Why does he need callers? Why does God need a starship? I mean, wait, why does God need an apologist? Why does he need someone to make excuses for him? Why does he need a human? He can't just pull back the curtain and be like, ta-da! Now worship me. You know?
Yep. And you know, ironically, God knows what I would need to be convinced that he exists and that he is a good and loving God that is empathetic. He knows what I would need to be convinced of that. And I assume he would know what you would need. And yet he stands idly by and does not provide to us what we need to know that he exists and that he is loving empathetically. That seems to me like he's playing favorites, because some people seem to have had this encounter with God. And when I ask them, how do I experience the same thing they've experienced? Well, there's never really a good answer. It's, well, you just have to pray more. You have to read the Bible. You have to go do something. And I've done all the things that they say to do. Maybe I haven't walked to Mecca or something. I don't know. I'm still waiting for the magic pill that reveals God to me. And yet I get nothing. Nothing but a bunch of anecdotes that people have gone through that convince them. And everybody has their own version of Christianity, and nobody can explain to me what the right one is or why they disagree with everybody next to them, but they're the right one. Everybody's got the right version. It's just, Ember, it's just mind-blowing and absolutely frustrating, to be honest with you. More frustrating than anything is that I was stuck in that for 42 years.
Yeah, that can be super frustrating. It makes me think of Brian Dalton, not Brian Dalton. That's the other guy. Maybe whatever, Mr. Deity. He doesn't say apologetics anymore. He says excusegetics, because that's what it is. The Bible tells us that God used to wander around the earth physically and talk to people and interact with people. And then in the time of Jesus was wandering around. Here, Thomas, if you need to poke my hole, go for it. Giggity, giggity. And, you know, he appeared to 500 witnesses. But he can't show his face to you except in a grilled cheese sandwich.
Right.
Apparently.
Right. And, you know, here's the thing. Apparently, atheists are the worst because we just want evidence. You know, we want actual evidence for the case at hand. You know, it's like if I'm in court and I'm being tried for murder, and the prosecutor stands up and, you know, he tells the judge, you know, he gives all this evidence, proof that a human on earth somewhere committed this murder. And the judge says, well, do you have any evidence that proves Alan is the murderer? Well, no, Your Honor. You just have to take that on faith. I've got all this evidence it's a human. You just have to take it on faith that it's this particular person. And that's what apologetics does. We have all this proof that somehow we got here. Okay, that's not exactly that marvelous, because I think we figured that out on our own. But that's as far as it takes. And well, how do you know it's Yahweh? Well, you just have to have faith. Well, what was the point of all that evidence? It doesn't do anything for the case at hand. Namely, does God exist? Yahweh himself, like, utterly useless. Apologetics is pointless and very, very frustrating.
Well, I think a part of it is because they keep getting hung up on Aquinas's 5 ways, and they keep misunderstanding them. Someone was asking the other day, why can't apologists make a good argument? It was Amy Newman, in fact, who does midnight ranting shows. Fabulous person. You should check her out if you're interested. But she was asking, why can't apologists make a good argument? And, you know, I have 2 possibilities. The first is that people who can make good arguments find other work. And the other is that they You can't make a good argument for a false proposition. You know, there is no honest way to argue for a thing that isn't true. It's a problem.
It is. But good news, Ember. There is a brave Christian that would like to give us some answers to the questions that we talked about earlier, that we asked earlier.
Cool.
Evan, come on in. Him from Wisconsin. Great to have you. Thank you for standing up for God and helping us understand some of these things. So why don't you give us some of the answers to the questions we asked earlier?
Okay.
Welcome to the show, by the way.
We were talking about how do these things happen to you? Oh, wait. I didn't hear what you said. Sorry, what?
My apologies. Let's start this whole call over. Welcome to the show, first of all. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. All right. Go ahead. Tell us what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, I feel like I feel like you got the wrong perspective here.
Cool. I love being wrong.
Why don't these things happen to me? Well, you first have to like even believe that they will happen to receive them. Like, I mean, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I don't believe in this, I'm gonna ask anyways and hope to receive it. You know, I mean, you gotta at least have faith.
So
well, how can you have faith when you don't, like, if there's nothing to perch it on? Like, for example, if I were to tell you Zeus is real and you say, well, why should I believe you? And I say, well, you have to have faith first, or this all-powerful God can't show you he exists for some reason unless you already believe in him. That probably wouldn't inspire a great deal of confidence in you, would it?
Well, it's different for me. I mean, personally, Zeus has never shown himself to me. just personally.
Yeah, but if you believe first, if you have faith first, then he will. That's what you're telling us to do.
Well, I mean, there wasn't ever a point where I didn't believe in him. It was whatever could be. It, like, but he never showed himself when I could have had faith. But it just so happenedly, Zeus never did.
Yes, but God, he's never revealed himself to me. And you're saying if I have faith first, then he'll reveal himself to me. And we're saying Zeus never appeared to you either. But if you have faith first, he'll reveal himself to you as well. Does that, I mean, do you see the comparison? I don't understand how they're any different.
Well, okay, so has he shown, well, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe, has that shown itself to you?
Well, yes. We're atheists.
The things that I believe, I can demonstrate through evidence, so that's why I believe them. I don't need faith first.
Well, what do you believe in?
Well, I believe this chair I'm sitting in holds me up for very good reasons. That's why I sit in it every day and don't freak out to sit down in it.
But what if that chair breaks one day?
Oh, it could, but all the evidence suggests that most chairs on a regular basis do what they're supposed to do. And we also know from evidence that sometimes they break, but we know they exist and we know their purpose. And so there's no faith required in knowing what chairs do.
Well, Alan, have you considered, if your chair is flawed and imperfect, that implies there must somewhere be a perfect chair from which your chair draws its properties of chairness. It is an imperfect copy, but there must be the ultimate chair somewhere. And wherever this ultimate chair is, in order to be the ultimate chair, it must in fact be the throne of the Almighty Being. right? Because wherever the Almighty Being sits, that would be the ultimate chair, but just by default, right? So the fact that you have a chair proves there must be some ultimate being. Have you considered that?
I've had to consider it because similar arguments have been made to me, but I didn't put too much stock into that after the fact. No, because there doesn't have to be a perfect chair for there to be flawed chairs. No.
It was worth a try.
It was worth a try. But you know what, Ember? If I have faith first, maybe that chair, that perfect chair, will reveal itself to me. What do you think about that, Evan? If I have faith first, will that perfect chair reveal itself to me?
Well, maybe not the chair, but I do like that analogy. Maybe if it's just not a inanimate object, then maybe it would show itself to you. But I don't think a chair is gonna get a mouth and say, I'm the perfect chair.
Well, you don't know that because you don't have faith about it. If you had faith, it might appear.
Yeah, like the perfect chair, the ultimate chair.
Evan, let me ask you a question. Is there anything that can't be taken on faith?
What'd you say?
Is there anything that can't be taken on faith?
Taken on things?
Taken on faith. Is there anything that you can't believe by faith?
Oh. I mean, probably not. I mean, if your imagination's the limit, I suppose.
All right. So if anything can be taken on faith, how do you distinguish between what's true and what's not true?
Well, it's not like a specific answer. It's a whole, we got our whole life to figure it out. But to say just one thing is objectively wrong forever. You at least have to be like, okay, maybe this is right, maybe this is right, maybe this, just keep it at maybes if you're uncertain of anything at least. But
so if I have faith, if I have faith that $20 equals $5, and I go into the bank and I give them $20 and they give me $5 back in change, if I take it on faith, then am I accurate? Am I correct? Is that good math? Because I took it on faith?
Well, you put it in the wrong thing. You're putting it into an inanimate object, not a real thing. Like, yeah, the money will pass.
Okay, let me use a different example. If I have faith that white people are better than black people, is that a good thing?
Well, yeah. So you're saying that there can be right and wrong views.
How do you distinguish them if it's taken on faith?
Well, you can pretty distinctively do that if you, personally, the president probably not a good person if he has that much power. There's certain obvious distinctions that you can make.
How though? Like, what is your epistemology, so to speak, of how you determine whether the president is a good person or a bad person if you're just taking it on faith that he is? How do you know? Because you can't say that you have to take something on faith first and then turn around and say, yeah, but then you use your mind to make these decisions. That they're conflicting ideas. Faith and evidence don't work together. It's like oil and water.
Well, okay, but it does though. I mean, if anything is real, you need evidence for it. We have evidence that everything is real. So if this isn't evidence, then is this just all faith? Which then you must have faith in something.
So back to my court analogy that I did earlier. If there is evidence that this universe came from somewhere, and that's as far as the evidence takes us, we can do nothing more than say, where else, what brought this thing into existence? And the best we can say is, I don't know. That's the honest answer, because we look at the evidence and we take it as far as it can take us. And we just leave it at, I don't know. To leap to, it must be God that did this. Now you're basing it on faith. That's not evidence. That's faith, because you've gone beyond where the evidence takes you. And is there a good reason to just believe something that you don't know for sure exists based on evidence?
Well, but there's both evidence of him being real.
No, there is.
There's not.
What evidence do you have of God being real?
I mean, there's many religions, many people believe. I mean, not all of them can be right, but I'm saying that, like, the idea has been around, and there is evidence that there could be. So then, when you take that evidence, you can't just take evidence full on at once and think. You gotta take it over time, think. You gotta study. You gotta think. You can't just come to conclusions. I mean,
Evan, you haven't answered my question. Evan, you're just talking in circles now. You haven't answered my question. What evidence do you have that God exists?
Well, but that was what I was saying. Like, so you're going to every religion and you're saying, you have no evidences, but I mean, they go back farther than most histories. I mean, most wars we know about, most anything. I mean, the Bible.
So if we have history, so history makes things true?
What did you say?
History makes things true. So if we have history of people saying God exists, that means God exists? Because we have history of people saying that Vishnu exists. Does that mean Vishnu exists?
Oh, yeah. Much further back than Yahweh. Way much farther back. We have, in fact, some of the oldest writing on Earth talks about freaking Enki and Ishtar and all those other Babylonian gods, including one named Sin, as it happens. Sin is older than your God. Does that make it more true?
Well, that's not. Well, okay. So I do know. Well, I don't know Finn, but like I do know Vishnu and all the Hindu stuff. But I mean, there's no. Well, where is the evidence that you have that it's older than mine?
Okay, that's beside the point. Like that's completely off topic and irrelevant to the conversation. We're asking you what evidence demonstrates that a God exists, and you started by saying, well, a bunch of history tells us gods exist. That still doesn't tell us that they do. It just tells us people believed that they did, but it doesn't tell us whether they did, and it also doesn't tell us that the God of the Bible exists. So I'm asking you, what evidence does in fact demonstrate that God exists?
Okay, well then I'll give you the straightest answer that I could possibly ever give.
Awesome. That's what I'm looking for. Your best answer. Go. Did you already answer? I'm sorry. If you did, I missed it.
Oh, sorry. The Bible is what I said.
Okay, the Bible. What's the evidence that the Bible is true?
Okay, there. I mean, it's one of the farthest back dated things.
Okay, again, you're giving the historical argument. Just because something has history doesn't mean it's true.
Well, you're not fully letting me finish what I'm saying, so you're kind of poking holes in things I haven't finished yet.
I'm just trying to move the conversation because I know these kinds of arguments, and I'm pretty certain what you're going to say. But I'll let you go ahead. I'll let you have some time. Go ahead.
Okay. So where I come from is I didn't just pick and choose. I mean, I took everything, every possibility. I took them all at face value. I looked at them, I studied them, I saw them, and I followed them. And I came to one answer, one that showed me, the others that didn't. So I personally have that evidence. But if you go out and you try to get that evidence, then you can get that evidence. But if you are an atheist and you're not even going to try to get that evidence because you just don't believe in it. But if you do and you do try, then maybe you will get it.
Well, here's the thing, Evan, is we're very interested in evidence. That's why we do shows like this, because people keep making claims in our general direction and saying, Yahweh is true, Jesus is true, Allah is true, Vishnu is true, Odin is true. And from the outside, how are we to tell which, if any, of these claims are true, unless someone can bring us some kind of evidence that shows their thing is more likely true than anybody else's thing? They all look identically like fairy tales to me, so I need a way to distinguish between these ideas.
Yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they have their book too. And they are certain, just like you are, because they've done the research, they've done the work. They even go to their services, and I think they even wear specific underwear, and they even have witnesses that observed Joseph Smith, and it got revealed to that Joseph Smith got these plates from Angel Moroni. They are as certain as you are, because they also were given evidence and they studied it, and they were certain that that book was true. Do you accept that the Book of Mormon is true?
No, because that comes directly after the Bible, and it is written by a man. So how could something after the Bible that also tries to follow the Bible but is written by man be right?
So if we go back before the Christian Bible and we find the books that talk about Zeus, let's go back full circle. Does that mean that that's correct and yours is wrong because it has more back? It goes back further in history.
I've never seen anything like written about Zeus. Like, I mean, like what has been written about him?
The
like
Odyssey,
that could be evidence reliably.
I mean, the fact the Trojan War happened is proof that the Greek gods are real, right? Because they're all over that legend. How do you even get a victory in Troy without Athena giving the Greeks the ability to sail all those ships? It doesn't make sense. So clearly, the fact the Trojan War happens confirms archaeologically the story of the Odyssey, and the Odyssey confirms the existence of the Greek gods. And that's before the Jews even started writing their stuff, to which the Christian New Testament is written by men in addition to.
But the whole thing that you are, outside of the name Greek gods, it is literally called Greek.
It's literally called what?
We lost you at the end there.
Oh, he hung up. Makes sense.
His phone may have just disconnected. It's impossible to say from this end. That's unfortunate because I was hoping to dig into a little bit more about what makes newer human written writings better than older God inspired writings. Alas, we'll just have to go with it. We do have another call, but first we also have at least one super chat I saw go by.
Yeah, and Evan, by the way, if you did lose you, just please call back because we'd love to continue the conversation. But yes, if we had a super chat, pop it up there and let's do it.
Let's see. We had I saw one by Felicia by Nature, and I see there's another one after that as well. So Felicia sent us $10. Thank you, Felicia, and said, if God is maximally great, why do evangelicals fight so hard for a single creation via the Kalam? It's much more maximally great to create a multiverse. Faith is silly. I think that's fun.
I do. Thank you.
Why not make a multiverse? If you have infinite power, why wouldn't you create all possible universes and see what happens?
Makes sense.
For science.
Hey, that would be cool because then we'd actually have other universes, if we could find them, to compare ours to, so that maybe we'd be able to say, oh, this is what a created universe looks like. Who knows? Then we could find existing God. But since he didn't do that, or at least do it in a way that we could also discover these other universes, he's kind of handicapped us from being able to compare what a created universe looks like from another one or one that isn't created. So the evidence takes us nowhere, does not help us find God. Next super chat.
The Kalam is silly for a whole bunch of reasons, but maybe we'll get to that at some point. Bryce Aroni was the other one. Greg says freedom is indeed our most valuable. It's not important. You want to do Bryce, since y'all are Pennsylvania buddies?
Sure. Yeah, we are now best friends. Did we just become best friends? We might have to go play karate in the garage or something, dude. That'd be great. All right, $10 from Bryce Aroni. Evan is going wrong is assuming that all atheists never had faith. Good point. I used to be a Christian, praying in faith, but got no revelation. The excuse then shifted to relying solely on faith. Yes, and thank you very much for that, Bryce. You're absolutely right. We didn't even have a chance to go there, but yes, I was a pastor for 42 years and 100% had faith. So anyway, let's take our next caller. We good for that? Ember, you ready?
Hell yeah.
All right, John, join us in the room, or calling out rather. Sorry, ours is in the room on the Deconversionist, but calling in, John, he, him is his pronouns. California. Woo! Yep. Awesome. And he is a Christian, saying the God of the Bible is a loving God. Tell us about it. Come on in, John, and welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey, we can hear you. We got you.
All right. So what would be your reasoning for saying that the Bible love is not love?
Did you watch the rest of the show?
Not too much, no.
Okay, so your question is the reasons we believe the God of the Bible is not loving?
Yeah.
All right. Ember, do you want to take a stab at trying to summarize as best you can, as quickly as can, or do you want me to do it?
Do the AI condensed Cliff Notes version. Yeah, basically God is a moral monster. He does horrible things like drowning babies or commanding the killing of babies or actually killing babies or destroying a city full of babies, etc. You get my point, I hope. He does horrible, non-loving things a lot.
Okay. Can you so you said that God, basically, to quickly summarize, you were saying that God is not loving because he is immoral. Can you define morality for me, please?
Sure. Morality essentially is the desire to bring about the greatest well-being and the least possible harm that we can.
Okay, so you said morality is a desire?
I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's the goal. Sorry, maybe not a desire, but it's the goal. The goal is to bring the least possible harm and the greatest possible well-being.
Yeah, if you're gonna get into definition fights, you end up playing word games really, really quickly. So it's much more efficient to try to get to a point by assuming good intentions instead of necessarily quibbling over the specific meaning of any particular split hair.
Yeah, I'm not asking to play word games. I'm just trying to get some clarity. So would both of you say that morality is subjective or objective?
I would say that the goal becomes objective once agreed upon, but it is subjective to the individuals until that point. I would equate it to playing a game of football. You know, the NFL has rules that they decide to agree upon, and once those rules are set, they become objective for that football season. And then the following season, they change the rules because that's what you do when you learn better ways to do things. So objectivity is decided upon and agreed upon, and that's what makes something objective. But it's clearly subjective to the degree that it can be changed at any given time when you find a better way to do things.
I would posit that it's a matter of intersubjectivity, which or interdependency, if you prefer. Morality applied at the individual level is necessarily subjective. It has to be, because that's the only perspective we have to work with. Yep. You definitionally, if you want to say, can't have an objective morality because values are going to be different for different people groups, but you can get something resembling objectivity with that interdependent, that intersubjective thing, which is like people come together and they agree. People vote on the laws for the nation, for example, and now it's objectively the law, but only for that nation. So it's subjective to the next level above the individual. And that's true with God too. Even if God did exist and he decreed morality, it's still not objective. It's subjective from his point of view.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I guess then, of course, I'm going to go with the classic example of, like, would you say that our current society's morals were better than that of, like, Germany during the time of the Holocaust?
I'm not sure we're that much different, to be frank. We're putting people into concentration camps and gunning down citizens in the streets. I don't know that we're really in better shape at the moment.
Okay, well, fine. Let's say, do you think it, rhetorical question, of course, but do you think it's better to, is it better to feed homeless people or to kick an old woman in the face who's crossing the street?
Well, this is an interesting game of either or. Why, what if I said both? What would happen? I'm curious.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, what if I said both? Like, if we're going to try to make everything black and white and just do arbitrary hypotheticals, I'm curious what happens if we break that dichotomy.
I asked, the question that I asked was, out of the two, which one is better? Which one is more moral? Kicking someone in the face, kicking an old woman in the face, or feeding homeless people?
More moral? I mean, obviously feeding homeless people, I don't really see why that would even be a question. Why would kicking someone in the face be better than feeding homeless people? I mean, it's situational too, because it depends on whether or not that person is coming to kill my wife. So, I mean, you're asking questions that are situational, which is, again, what situational ethics is.
In the example that I gave, it was an old woman who was crossing the street. So that's obviously going to be an innocent human being within this hypothetical scenario. So for you to say both, I was asking you which one is more moral than the other. If you want to say that they're on the same plane of morality, that's fine, you can do that, but then your worldview is going to reduce to absurdity. My problem with what you're saying, though, is that ultimately it's just up to human preference. So if you're going to say that Yahweh of the Bible is evil because he does these moral things, ultimately that's just your opinion, and if I say that my opinion is that it's fine, I'm equally correct.
Well, of course it's our opinion, but here's the problem. I'm not sure how trying to demonstrate that our version of morality is wrong somehow proves that your God is an objective standard of some sort. I'm not tracking how that makes the case. And I also don't know how following the rules of a God blindly out of obedience without questioning them makes you moral. That's really what we need to talk about, because whatever we think about morality is irrelevant to whether or not your God is moral.
How? If morality is subjective, then you are the subject who's making the claim that God is evil. So it's just your opinion, ultimately, if morality is subjective.
That's
so it's just your opinion.
That's
that
still irrelevant. You're claiming that your God is moral and that therefore you have morality. And I'm asking you to demonstrate how you know your God is moral.
How do I know my God is moral? The impossibility of the contrary.
I knew that was coming. Here we go.
I love precept nonsense.
Hold on. Do you want me to expand on that a little bit and provide you an actual argument for that?
Don't need to. We know the impossibility of the contrary, man. Look, here's.
No, I mean, do you want me to provide the reasoning why I think it is impossible for the contrary to be true?
Sure, we'll humor you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that would be a form of a transcendental argument as presented by someone like Greg Bahnsen. So morality can only exist if God exists. To put it into like a syllogism would be, God is the necessary precondition of morality. Morality exists, therefore God also exists. It's like a moral argument, but in a transcendental form.
That doesn't occur to you as really circular?
No, hold on. Let me explain to you why it's not circular. If I say X is necessary for Y exists, therefore X also exists. It's a necessary entailment. Are necessary entailments circular?
Well, your first premise is not valid to begin with. You're making a claim that you're already.
I can justify that premise for you.
Well, you haven't though. Can you justify? You have to have a whole other syllogism to justify that premise first.
You haven't asked me to do that yet. So if you ask me to do that, I can do that. You
started with that. Why would I ask? Of course, I didn't ask you to do that. You made an assumption that we would just accept it. I don't accept that premise.
I understand that. You haven't asked me to do that. I'm not going to just lay out the entire, full, very in-depth argument at one time. What I can do right now for you is I can either explain transcendental reasoning to you and show you how it's not at all circular, or I can show you that...
this is not going to go anywhere, and here's why.
Hold on.
Arguing for the impossibility of the contrary... Don't make me have to mute you. Arguing for the impossibility of the contrary does not actually make the case you think it does, because you don't know every possibility that could exist. You don't know because you're not omniscient. And even if you did exhaust every possibility in the natural world and been able to say, hey, we've exhausted every possible option in this world, and there is nothing else. There has to be God because it's impossible for anything else to be true. My argument would be, yeah, but you haven't exhausted every possibility outside of the natural that we know in this universe, because you know nothing prior to Planck time any more than anybody does. We don't know what took place prior to Planck time. Nothing. It could be a million possibilities, which is why we just say, I don't know. So to say the impossibility of the contrary is nonsense, because you don't know that anything else is impossible. You just don't know that.
There's another issue as well. When you assert impossibility of the contrary, you're delving into brute fact territory that effectively leaves you with a fill-in-the-blank Mad Libs game. You could put literally anything in there. What is the cause of the universe? I could say universe creating pixies, or nil, the great not God and creator of creator gods. Or I could say your mama. Your mama is the necessary cause for all creation. It doesn't make any difference because there's nothing underneath it. It's just an assertion. But it's so much worse than that, because we could just grant that for the sake of argument. We could say, cool, there is at least one necessary being, maybe a whole bunch of them, maybe it's all of us, who the hell knows? But let's say there's a necessary being. Great, I think it's Zeus. Now how do we determine what it is, if any? We're back in the same position.
Okay. Yeah, you're giving a lot of different arguments there. Do you want me to deal with like your Zeus argument or the necessary precondition argument? Like, which one do you want me to actually go for first?
I want to know if you talk to my cat, because my cat think it created the universe. Did you exhaust that? Did you exhaust that option?
Well, I wouldn't cross off the option of your cat being the creator of the universe if your cat can solve the problem, the logical problem of the one and the many through a triune existence.
Maybe
what is this triune business now? Where did that come from? I thought there was one necessary thing. Why is it a triune now? And also, what does triune mean?
Hold on. 1 second. I want to clarify something quickly before we continue with this. Did you say why is it a triune, or why is it three beings? Is that what you said?
The first thing I asked is, where did the triune thing come from? First, you were saying there's a necessary being, and now it has to be triune. Why does this necessary thing have to be triune?
We're dealing within transcendentals here. So one of the transcendentals is going to be laws of logic. It's also morality. Those things go hand in hand. So one of the laws of logic is the problem of the one and the many. So it has to both be able to solve logical problems and moral problems to be the necessary precondition for transcendentals.
All right, so let's pause for just a second before we go down this road, because I feel like we're in a lot of different directions right now, and probably this one is unnecessary for the initial issue that we were dealing with, which is morality. Let's try to take a simpler approach, because I can guarantee you we're going to go in circles with this, because we don't buy the precept argument.
That is the idea. That's the entire point with precept.
And that's not going to work. That's your way to deflect and switch the burden of proof, and that's not going to happen, because it's not our burden to prove. But let's go back to morality for a second. What's that?
What have I deflected on that you would like me to tackle better? I can do that for you if you'd like.
We know it's the precept argument. You're going to try to switch the burden of proof and try to make us demonstrate that there's any possibility but God. It's silly, because we can't do that. It's impossible.
Not shift the burden of proof. What?
What'd you say?
How does presuppositionalism shift the burden of proof? What have I shifted the burden of proof on?
Because you're going to require that we demonstrate a possibility other than God.
No.
That's the impossibility of the contrary argument, man. That's what you said.
Oh, no, I'm arguing from the impossibility of the contrary, because it is necessary for this being to be triune in nature, or at least multiple, a singular plurality, because of the problem of the one and the many. Because it has to be able to solve logical laws and moral laws, which are written in the hearts of humankind, because it has to be capable of solving these transcendentals to be God. That's what God is, definitionally, is what grounds transcendentals.
Yeah, so
we're not talking about the God of the Bible, then, who definitionally is none of those things.
God is not.
So? Are we talking about a transcendental being that meets all these paradoxical requirements, or are we talking about the guy who physically wandered around the Garden of Eden asking Adam and Eve where they were hiding? It cannot be both things.
How are those mutually exclusive?
As I just stated, the one is a physical thing that wanders around and does not have perfect knowledge, and the other is this ultimate paradoxical something outside of reality. There's more different than you and I are as individuals. A is not A.
Are you aware of the concept of a manifestation of the divine?
There's a few things that might apply. So there's a few different religious traditions where people believe that gods can bring themselves into a person's being or create a temporary body, an avatar, if you will. That avatar isn't the full God. It's a mortal-sized manifestation, a chunk, a spark, if you will, sort of like the Quakers believe all humans carry a spark of the divine within them. That's what the Imago Dei means to them. So you could argue that every single human, by that same expression, is a manifestation of the divine. And in fact, that brings to mind the Jesus's invocation of the Psalms, where he said, "Is it not written, ye are all gods?" which gives some scriptural overtones to this sort of thing. So from a certain point of view, you could argue that if Christianity is true and divine manifestations exist, then we're all God.
You guys are making all sorts of arguments. Do you want me to deal with the "you are gods" claim? That the Bible teaches that we are divine, or do you want me to deal with?
I don't want to deal with any of this, because we're off track. I think no matter what you demonstrate as far as your case that there must be some being out there that's triune or whatever, it still wouldn't demonstrate the God you're trying to demonstrate. All it would demonstrate, if you were able to prove that in any way, shape, or form, that something exists that's triune, but it doesn't mean it's Yahweh. So you're still not going to help your case any, because it doesn't prove the impossibility of the contrary, because there's still a million possibilities that could fit your description, and it doesn't have to be the God of the Bible. So that's not going to help us right now. What I want to go back to is morality, because that's what we were talking about, and that's what I want to stick on, because we're just becoming a train wreck. We're everywhere. You said that you were questioning us on our morality and whether it's subjective or objective, and Ember made the point earlier that even if you take your morality from God, it is still subjective because it's based on his opinion and his opinion only. So you tell me, how is that objective?
For it to be subjective, it would have to be changing, and God is not changing.
But it's what? No, it's still his decision. It's still his morality. It's his opinion on what's right and what's wrong, even if it never changes.
None of those things are true, right? Like, God does change. We see it over the course of the Bible. But also, the fact it doesn't change, that's not what objective means.
Correct.
You guys must talk to some really stupid people, because I don't think any actually intelligent Christian would tell you that morality is just God's opinion.
Well,
it's an eternal attribute of his nature.
All right, so let me ask you this. Are God's morals, because, how do I put this? Does God determine what's moral because it is, or does he determine what's moral because he decides it is?
It's an eternal attribute of his divine nature. How does that not answer your question?
Right. Okay, so are you saying that he dictates what the morals are, or are the morals already dictated and he just agrees with them?
That's a false dichotomy. It doesn't have to be an either or. It is something that eternally exists alongside him as a part of his nature. I don't understand how you're confused by this.
Okay, alongside him as his nature. Okay. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're right. This God is objectively moral from all eternity, never changes. So he is an objective standard. How does that make you moral?
Because I am one of his image bearers, and I'm also his offspring, like in a spiritual sense.
Yes, no, that's not my question. Let me try it again. How did you determine that God is a good objective standard?
Because he wrote the moral law on our hearts. The moral law is written on our hearts.
How did you determine that the moral law written on your hearts was from God?
Because that's what the Bible tells me. What?
There it is. We're back to the Bible.
The moral law is written on our hearts. Yeah, there it is. What? My epistemology, of course. What?
Your argument, all that reasoning was pointless, because ultimately you're basing your decisions on what the Bible says. That's the root of the issue.
You're basing it off of your subjective opinion. That's your epistemology.
I'm not saying it isn't, but we're not making a claim like it is. Like, you're saying this is the only way and it's God's objective standard, and I get it from the Bible. And we're saying, how do you know? How do you know any of this is true?
Because of the transcendental argument. What are you talking about?
The transcendental argument tells you the Bible is true.
Argument that brings you right back around to because the Bible said so.
It's what it is.
I do want to clarify. Our opinions may be the things that we express in the moment, but they're based on information external to ourselves, not just one book that we were brought up believing or something along those lines, but things that we can test for ourselves, things we can verify for ourselves. And when we're presented with information that we're in error, subject to change and updating, when you base your entire worldview on a very flawed and internally contradictory book, you're kind of borked, because if you ever admit that the things that are clearly wrong in there are mistaken, the whole worldview goes out the window. And that's a bit of a problem. Alan, if you want to finish up, great, but we do have one more caller.
Yeah, let me just say this. Look, we can, as Ember was just saying, we can make moral decisions evidentially. Like, we know that if morality is that which causes the greatest well-being and the least possible harm, you can actually make wise and objective even decisions because you can look at objective evidence. You can look at the fact of what harms people, and you can say, hey, that's not good, that's harmful, and so we're not going to do that. That's an immoral thing to do. It's not hard to know that raping children is bad, and I don't need some God to tell me that. I just need evidence. It's not that hard to observe that it's painful and not good.
Okay, so what is your reasoning for thinking that things that are harmful, basically what you're saying is something is painful or harmful, therefore it's immoral. That doesn't logically follow at all.
I didn't say therefore it's immoral. I said therefore I can look at things that are harmful and I can say subjectively it is not a good thing to do, and yes, that would make it immoral. However, there are exceptions, and the exceptions are what's that?
If it's just your opinion, what does it matter if Jeffrey Epstein disagrees with you and wants to just bring a bunch of children on his island? It's just his opinion.
Because evidentially you can look at that and you can demonstrate that that's not good. Like it's going to be based on.
He doesn't care.
It's going to be.
He doesn't care. So what's the matter to him? It doesn't matter that it's harmful to him. Like it doesn't harm him. It harms other people, and it's just his subjective opinion.
And he would be wrong.
Yeah.
How do you know? That's what you're saying. You're saying it's ultimately your opinion, but someone else's opinion is wrong. That's an objective claim. You are appealing to my God to disprove him.
Because it's rooted in empiricism, man. It's rooted in evidence. We can see and observe that what he's doing is wrong.
See, this is a mischaracterization or misunderstanding or something like that. But to say that it's just your opinion, that's a smokescreen. That's a smoke show. The opinions are derived from values, the values that we all agree on, like things that promote human flourishing are good, things that reduce human flourishing are bad, things that do unnecessary harm to people are bad. We take these values, we subjectively put them into a priority order, and then we all collectively agree on which ones we should try to make policies about and so forth. It's as far from an opinion as you can get without breaking out a microscope.
Right. And what I was trying to get at earlier when I said it's not necessarily immoral, what I meant by that, and I was trying to clarify, is it's situational. Like in the kink world, for example, there are some people that truly like being masochists, and to them that's delightful. But that's a totally different scenario than what Epstein would do. And we can see that from evidence because we know that children don't like that. So there's totally different times where certain things work and they're not considered immoral. But in this case, it's objectively obvious that it's immoral, even though that would be my understanding of it because I can look at the evidence.
I have to go in 4 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep this short. What you said, and you made a massive slip up, is you said that his subjective morality is wrong. You need to justify that on an atheistic, materialistic worldview. You can't. It's just his opinion. Opinions cannot be wrong.
Opinions can be wrong. Yeah. If your opinion that the shape of the earth is flat, I can show you that's wrong. What do you mean?
But your opinion that ice cream, that like strawberry flavored ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream, that cannot be objectively incorrect. You are saying that someone's preferences, ultimately what your morality reduces to is just someone's preference, and you cannot justify that.
What is the reason
that one's preference is better than another person's preference?
John, what is the reason? Again, I'm going to go back and press you on this. What is the reason that you have decided that the Bible is true?
Why have I decided that the Bible is true?
Yes.
I have not decided that the Bible is true. If you're asking me why I believe the Bible, it's because of God's divine revelation and his choice to elect me.
Yes, but belief isn't a choice. You don't just say, I'm going to just believe something today that I don't believe. You believe it because there are certain things that have convinced you that it's true. And I'm asking you, what are the things that have convinced you? What are the things that have convinced you that it's true?
The things that have convinced me that it's true is God himself predestining me to his salvation.
And how did you determine that this was God?
How did I determine that it was God that predestined me?
Yes. How did you even determine that you were predestined?
How did I determine that I was predestined by what?
Yes. How do you know you just
Absurd question. You're asking me. Hold on. You're asking me how I determined that I believe it?
You're over here pretending to do spiritual calculus when you haven't even got the basics of addition down. Is that what's happening right now?
essentially what you're going to argue for is Bible and that's true. Your whole argument is totally circular, man. You believe the Bible's true, and so the Bible's true.
No, I'm not saying that the Bible is true because I believe it. I'm saying I believe the Bible because through God's revelation,
I believe revelation is the Bible. So I believe the Bible because through the Bible, I believe the Bible.
I don't have to give you some sort of syllogism for the way that I came to believing in the Bible. That's absurd.
So did you have a Damascus Road experience like Paul?
No, I don't have to. God subdued my heart, and now we're trying to subdue yours.
You know that God subdued my heart for 42 years. God subdued my heart for 42 years.
No, he did not.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't.
How do you know?
I used to use this same argument, and I used to be a believer.
I know that from God himself. 1 John 2.
Yeah, it went out from
the Bible says, how silly of me for asking.
Back to the Bible. Yeah, exactly.
You're critiquing my view and then using your standards. What are you doing?
The problem, though, is once again, you only believe this stuff because you have decided that this is the stuff you think is true. And you only believe that God's a good standard because you have decided that God's a standard you wish to follow. Let me ask you this question. You know, I mean, I'm going to assume you know your Bible somewhat well. I'm hoping anyway. You do know that, and I love to use this one, so I apologize for listeners who would get tired of hearing me talk. This is big. You know that the Bible commands Deuteronomy 22 that if your wife was found to be not a virgin on the first wedding night, the first night of your wedding day, I guess that would be the first night, sorry, the first day that you got married, then you were to take her out into the city and you were to stone her to death. If God came to you and he told you that he wants you to take your wife who was slept with somebody before you got married and stone her, would you do it?
We're not under, this is an entirely different thing, but for now,
I don't care when or how or what excuse you're going to.
Hold on, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt.
Do it.
Coward, don't interrupt.
Don't try to justify it or whatever. Just give me an answer to the question. If God came to you, because you have a communication with God, apparently he came and revealed shit to you. If God came and he told you to stone your wife, would you do it? It's a simple question, yes or no?
Right. This is the last question. No, not necessarily because of the new covenant.
What does it matter? Did God ever condone and command the stoning of women who were adulterers? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then God changed.
What?
God did something immoral because it is immoral to stone your wife.
You said it yourself.
No, God didn't change that. What you asked was if God said to just stone your wife for no reason. If she was an adulterer, sure.
You would stone your wife. You think stoning's a great idea. You would do stoning. You think that's morally good. Do you know what stoning is? Do you have any clue what stoning is, man?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. What? You can't tell me that that's wrong because you. Hold on, but it's just my preference. It's just my preference. You can't tell me it's wrong. It's just my preference.
We're back to trying to defend your view of this by turning it upon our view of it as if that justifies your view. No, thank you. I think that's quite silly.
I'm asking you
by what. Let you go. But I want you to go take some time to decide whether the God of the Old Testament is moral or not. And when you go back there, if you can justify...
You can't tell me why he's not moral. It's just my preference. It's just my vanilla over strawberry. It's just my Pepsi over Coca-Cola. Come on.
Great. So then I'm glad that you think that stoning a woman and children is moral. That makes me sick, man.
Great. You're just going to run like a coward because you can't tell me. You can't defend it. You reduce your entire worldview just reduced to absurdity. You need to repent so you can actually think.
John, I'm not asking you whether it's immoral according to our view. I'm asking you if it's immoral according to yours. Is it immoral according to yours, not ours? You can't say, oh, I think it's immoral for this reason because that's what you said. I didn't ask you what we're arguing. I'm asking what you're arguing. You're making a case for an objective standard called God, and I just called that crap out from the Old Testament, and now you're trying to turn it around and say, well, you think it's like, I don't care what we think. Why do you think it's moral? You don't, and that's the problem. Okay. Your God's a monster, and you have to defend him at all costs, and you don't know how right now.
No, I do. I'm going to answer this question, and you can give your response, and then I'm going to have to be done, okay? So, I would say, in the cases in the Old Testament where God permitted people to be given stoning or the death penalty, that is fine, because it is what God has shown us from his eternal divine attribute of morality.
So is
you want to give your response, and then I'm going to have to talk.
Is it still moral today, then?
Is that going to be your one response?
That's my question. Is it still moral?
If God commands it, sure.
Wow. So you don't actually have a moral standard of your own. You're not a moral agent. You're just an obedient guy who just does what God says.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm God's slave.
Well, congratulations for being a robot. Why did we waste 30 minutes talking to an automaton? I mean, I don't get it.
Here we go. Now your excuses. Okay, goodbye and good day. You should repent and believe the good news so you can use proper transcendental thinking.
Dude, if the good news is still your wife, I'm out. I'm happy where I'm at. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Let's bring in our next guest.
Thank you, John. I do have to say, there's so many notes. We don't have time, alas. But I do have to apologize. I am made of tangents, it is known, and I cannot resist messing with precepts because they leave so many openings, and I just want to take their argument and go off over here and show how it's absurd and go over here into this absurdity and look at that absurdity over there. The whole damn thing is just circles upon circles of absurdity. And it's a playground for me, and I just can't resist. So I have to apologize.
No, you're fine. It's fine. That was anybody that's going to advocate for things like stoning women and children and slavery and rape and all these garbage from the Old Testament, try to justify it and defend an immoral God like that. That makes me sick. I honestly wish people would have come to me and shown me these things in the Bible that I obviously missed when I was a Christian, because maybe I'd have got out earlier, because this is disgusting. I can't imagine anybody that would defend a God like that. Like, that would be the first thing that I'd be like, whoa, I'm out. I don't want to worship that God, even if he does exist. And to say that God never changes, and then to say that it was moral then, but immoral now, that's also a problem.
It's the new covenant, Alan. He doesn't change, but he does change because Trinity, probably, or something.
Right.
Whatever.
Sean, him from Georgia, welcome to the show. He is a Christian theist. Where do the hosts derive their basis of morality from? First of all, are you here, Sean?
I think we're on Rob at the moment.
Is this Sean?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think there was. Did I miss one? Oh, I did.
It's what's on the banner
going by. I'm sorry, because Rob was first, and I do apologize. Well, hang on, though. We'll get back to you. What's that?
I was saying, Sean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut in front of anybody.
That wasn't your fault. That was my fault. I totally missed it. Sean, we'll get back to you, though. Just hang back in the room for just a minute. Quantum Rob, can we bring him into the room? Thank you, Ember, for clarifying that. That's totally my bad.
We're very popular this evening, folks. And by the way, while we do have a little fun, we do appreciate the folks for calling. It's nice to talk to y'all.
Absolutely. All right. Is Rob here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Quantum Rob. Welcome. Him from Florida. Hey, Rob, I was from Florida. Well, I wasn't from Florida, but I lived in Florida for a good portion of my life. So I'm jealous that you're still down there right now.
Hey, I see palm trees, man. I see palm trees.
I do. Don't even, man. See, you're starting off this call wrong already, making me jealous. Anyway, you say, what are the host's best arguments for there not being a God?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the question? Well, I don't have any arguments for not being a God any more than I do for there not being unicorns or pixie fairies or Barbie in the sky. I don't try to find arguments for things that I have no reason to believe exist because they're unfalsifiable. So how can I have an argument for something that's unfalsifiable? Ember, do you have a different answer before he responds?
I mean, it's a complicated question because you have to ask, what do you mean by God, right? Like, are we talking about a specific God, or are we talking about all gods? Because
he's a Christian, so
I can't say for sure that there's no gods. I'm agnostic on that. But when it comes to specific gods, like the gods of Olympus, we've been up Mount Olympus, we know they're not there. Or the God of the Bible, he's got mutually contradictory attributes. By the laws of logic, a contradiction cannot exist in reality. So we know that God is not true. And the whole thing with the story being written by humans, but never mind that for right now. So certain specific gods, definitely made up by humans, are no more real than Spider-Man. So it seems to me.
Okay.
I could be mistaken, however.
Okay. So there's some doubt in you. There's some doubt in you.
Well, I live by doubt. That's how, I mean, I'm a skeptic. That's how I make my decisions in life. That's how I come to believe things. I wait for evidence and I only accept things that I have good reasons to accept.
Okay, so you would say that you don't believe in God because
I don't believe because I haven't been given sufficient information to accept the proposition of any specific God.
So what would be the information you would need to believe in God?
I don't know, but I think whatever God exists should know what would convince me. The problem is there's no evidence so far that we've been able to utilize that can demonstrate that a God exists that I've been able to see. So I remain open to the possibility, but until that whatever evidence that is reveals itself, I have no reason to think one does exist. But to ask me what would, I mean, how can I possibly answer that? I don't know. I mean, he would have to reveal himself to me in some way that I haven't yet seen.
I'd believe in a God for the same reason I believe in Alan. There he is. There's Alan. Show me the God and I'll consider it, you know?
Yeah, but the problem is, like, you're using empirical data from the world we live in, the natural world, which is, I agree with you. Like, if there was a way to demonstrate God from the natural world, I would also believe in him. But we clearly don't have a method yet that can demonstrate a God exists. So I would need to know, number one, what method would demonstrate a God exists and how that method demonstrates that a God exists.
Okay, so you're saying that you would have to see God in order to believe in God, right?
Not necessarily.
See. I would have to see evidence for it.
Okay, so I do have evidence. So I want you to consider this. God is like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. So the evidence behind wind itself, I mean, that's basically eats up the concept of what you're talking about.
Oh, not exactly. So the wind, incidentally, it kind of goes to what the previous caller was talking about, the problem of the one and the many. We know that the wind is made by moving air molecules. At what point does a bunch of moving air molecules become the wind? But that's a discussion for another time.
Let's not jump. Let's not jump. Let's not semantic. Let's be simple. So the wind, you can't see it, but you can feel it. Yes or no?
Yes.
You can see its effects. You can see your hair blow. You can see the grass wave. You can see the trees bend. There are visible effects.
Yes,
and
but
if there were effects like that for a God,
we also go beyond that now. When we have technology that can actually visually demonstrate that there's wind blowing.
Okay, so check it out. I totally understand that. We'll get past that, but you can't see them, but you can feel them. I already got that one. All right, so if you would say there's not a God, what would trigger the Big Bang?
All right, so hold on a second. Let me ask you this question before I get there. How do you distinguish between the wind and a chill on your neck?
All right, you're no semantics. So let's keep it simple.
No. I don't mean semantics. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just literally asking you, how do you distinguish the difference?
I really never get chills on my neck. I don't even remember the last time I get a chill on my neck. I do feel the wind a lot more.
That wasn't sure a lot more. That's fine. But how do you know in that one instant that it wasn't the wind?
Because a chill is kind of like something that'll give you goosebumps when you're cold.
Yeah, I get goosebumps a lot. How do I know that's not the wind?
All right, because it's not the wind. You know what goosebumps are? Do you know the origins to why you get goosebumps?
Yes, but you're just making a declarative statement. You're saying, "Oh, it's not the wind." How do you know? Just because we know how goosebumps come most of the time, there's nothing that says this time it wasn't the wind.
So do you know why the body feels a chill when it does?
Why don't you educate me?
You know that before you use that as an argument. Do you know why the body feels a chill?
Why don't you educate me?
All right. So when you get goosebumps, they're caused by the change of air. You see what I'm saying? So what you're talking about?
Wait, you mean like kind of like wind?
No.
Oh, not that change of air.
No, it's your heat. You try to trap your heat, and it's mostly an emotional thing that happens. It's like when you feel strong emotions, it'll cause your body to change. So it has nothing to do with wind. So let's throw that out the window and let's get back to what we were talking about.
Right, so let me try to ask you. Okay, so that went nowhere. Let me try to ask you a different way. Let's say you come outside from inside your house and you see a bunch of trees laying on the ground. Was that the effects of the wind?
Wait, say that again?
If you go outside and you see a bunch of trees laying on your ground, was that the effects of the wind?
Yeah.
How did you determine that?
And well, it could have been an animal, but that's what I'm assuming.
Ah, so it could have been many things. Doesn't have to be the wind, but it might have been the wind. But you don't know, do you?
Okay, but you're doing what I said. You're going to semantics. Let's stick.
Dude, this isn't semantics. This is literally a question as to how you distinguish between something you can't see.
I understand that, but you're like veering away in order to make yourself seem right. But the thing is that you're throwing something in there like semantics in order to change what is wind and what is not wind. The thing is that's like the cat in the box. That's like, you ever heard of the cat in the box equation?
Yes.
You don't see the cat in the box. Is it dead? Is it not dead?
Semantics is using words, tricking with words. I'm not doing semantics. I don't even know what you're talking about. But to say that you know it's wind because you went outside and saw trees on the ground would be erroneous. And you know that.
All right. So
where you're going with this is you're trying to make the argument that you can't see God, but you see the effects of God. So he must exist. And I'm going to make the same case. I'm going to say, when you look around you, how do you know that these effects were caused by God and not by something else? Let's skip all the.
All right, so check it out. So if you put a cat in a box, right, and you don't see that cat for a month, but you don't know that it's dead, but you're assuming that it's dead. You can Google that. That is a scientific test that they did. If the cat's in the box and you don't see it, but it's not dead because you haven't opened the box, is that cat dead or alive?
Okay, so this is
what you just did. You just
they didn't actually
that equation. So check it out. Moving on. Because you're trying to go around. You're trying to go around the wind right now. You're trying to go around the wind. So let me ask you this: the Big Bang Theory. What triggered it?
Why does something have to trigger it?
All right. I mean, it happened. That's what atheist scientists say.
Well, that's what science says. You may be familiar with the idea that the Big Bang Theory is commonly called.
Are you smarter than scientists? So what is your explanation?
It was a Catholic who came up with the idea. It was a priest named George Lemaitre who ran Einstein's illusion and said, "Look, there's a Big Bang in here."
Okay, so what is your explanation to how it all began?
My explanation is I don't know. I'm not making declarative statements as to how it came about because we literally don't
look,
know.
I find it intriguing that every single time you ask a question, I give an answer, but then when you don't know, it's usually I don't know, and that's good enough.
Yes, because you would do the
isn't
same
it?
thing with things you don't know.
All right, so atheists really don't know. All right, that's fine. That's conceded right there. All right. Why
hold on.
is the universe physically constant and finely tuned for life?
Rob, that is a really important point that you really need to reflect on, friend, because when we come across something Rob, when we come across something we don't know, we honestly say we don't know. Whereas several times in this conversation, with your own examples, you're happy to just make something up and assume it's true. And that's the difference.
You can look up the cat scientific project. You can look it up. And the thing is that there's no denying that you can feel the wind, but you can't see it. So we're already over that. All right, so
we are not. We are not. Stop talking. Stop talking for a second. Hey, John. Oh, Rob. Sorry, wrong guy. My apologies. Quantum Rob, stop for a second. We are not past that. You don't get to just jump past it because you don't like having to answer the question. You brought up the wind. Can I please finish before you go? You brought up the wind and you said, well, you can't see the wind, but you see the effects of the wind. And where you're going with that is you can't see God. You see the effects of God. But the problem is you won't answer the question honestly. When I said, when you come out of your house and you see trees on the ground, was that wind? Your first answer was yes. And I said, how do you know? And you said, well, I guess it could have been an animal. And we could sit here and we can come up with 30 different things that it could have been. And the problem is the exact same thing's going to apply to your argument that therefore God's the same way. God exists because you can't see him, but you see the effects of God. It can still be a million possibilities, which is why Ember and I say, we don't know, because it could be any of these things. And until we have declarative evidence to demonstrate which one it is, we're not going to just decide that we know. If you're playing Clue, it's like you've just decided that Colonel Mustard did it in the library with the wrench before you even started the game.
How did you know?
I don't know. But you don't know is the real answer. You can't just declare you know something if you honestly don't. Now you can go.
I told you about the cat, the scientific cat in a box. If you don't see it, if it's dead or not dead. We're moving on from there because, like I said, I didn't say the effect. You turned it into your own scenario to convince yourself about what it was, what I was saying. But I never said in my sentence, you can even go back and even replay it. I said you can feel it. I didn't say you can see the effect. So you, like I said, semantics, you're totally switching what I'm saying in order to have an argument. So moving on, because there's really no argument there. It's just you changing the concept of what the whole topic was all about.
Are you familiar with what an analogy is?
All right, so check it out. What would trigger the Big Bang? You said you don't know. That's conceded. All right. Why is the universe physical constant is finally...
We lost your audio there, but it sounded like you were about to say finely tuned, to which I would then inquire, is it? How do
why
we know?
Is the universe finely tuned perfectly for life?
Is it? And how do we know?
But also, which part? This little tiny speck called Earth? What about the rest of the universe? How come that's not finely tuned for us to live?
No, you're not giving an explanation, though. You're just talking.
Well, we're questioning your premise. The universe clearly is not finely tuned for life. Most of it is dead. Even on this one planet that we don't die immediately.
I'm not talking about the universe. Don't do what he did with the wind.
Your premise is flawed. That's not word games or trickery. Your question is broken.
Also, I'm
pretty direct.
You're starting. Rob.
Constant world that we live in.
Rob,
how is it finely tuned for us?
Rob,
it isn't.
You're also starting out with a presupposition that is unnecessary. You're asking us a question. Why is it finely tuned? That's presupposing something that's unnecessary. Why do you assume it's finely tuned? Take that out of your equation. You know nothing about this universe and why it is the way it is. You don't know it's finely tuned. You're assuming that.
Finely tuned. I didn't say why. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, and I'm asking you the question, how is it that this universe is finely tuned for us to be alive right now?
We just told you it's not. Just this little portion is.
So it's finally
Rob,
tuned.
are you
All right, you
for
can
real?
keep with that one.
Let's
Let's move on. Let's move on. All right. How did life arise from nothing without a push?
We don't know.
How does water turn from ice without a push? Like, what do you mean?
Don't know nothing. So
Yes.
you don't know how life became to be?
You don't know either. That's the point. We're saying honestly, we don't know.
I do know.
We're happy to make shit up.
Dust, we become dust. I mean, we're made out of dirt, and we become dirt when we disintegrate into the ground. I mean, that's a lot better than what you got.
Well, no, we're mostly water, 70 to 80%, depending on how hydrated
No,
you are at
no,
any moment.
no, your water leaves the body when you die.
What?
Water leaves the body. You dry out when you die. So, all right. So, next question. You conceded to that one too. All
I don't understand what we're doing here. This is really silly.
We're just making up the rules as we go. Why don't Rob? Why don't you just skip to the end, since you're just making up what you want to be true anyway, and just declare whatever it is you want to get to?
Please do that. Yes.
Give you guys something to think about later. All right, moving on. Can something
move on to the end? Please move to the end. Just tell us what the conclusion.
All right. One more caller to get to today.
Listen, I know my questions are stumping you guys, and it's difficult, but that's what I do. Quantum conversation.
We've given you the honest answer to every one of them. We don't know, and you don't like that answer because you think you do.
I know you guys. I guess atheists really don't know what to believe then.
Yes. So all of this questioning is useless because our answers are we don't know. So we're just asking you, what's your conclusion? Just
all right. So look, you're telling me not to believe in God, but then you keep telling me you don't know.
Yes, because we don't know.
I know.
You know. Okay.
I know, but you don't know. So hold on, atheists, and I'll leave you guys with this one because obviously I already proved my point. Can something come from nothing? It's a very easy one.
Just philosophically, I'm just going to agree and say no, they can't.
Wow, we finally got an answer. So how is it that was created? Where did it come about?
Dude, you just leaped. You just started with something saying created. I don't believe it's created. And why should I?
All right. Well, where did it come from?
Hold on. Reb, you just said we agree that something cannot come from nothing. Therefore, by your own assertion, the universe could not be created, and physics happens to agree on this one. Energy can be created or destroyed, right? Energy always has to be existed. Hold on, Rob. So your assertion, your God is impossible.
What caused that something?
It might not have been caused. We know nothing about it. That's the whole point. You're assuming a cause. You're assuming a.
You just said no. That nothing can cause something.
Yeah, but you don't know anything about prior to Planck time, and neither do I. We don't know what existed prior to Planck time, if anything. We have no idea. You're making a lot of assumptions about what you know.
What do the smartest people in history say about how it all began?
Who cares? This is you. You said you know.
No. It's called cosmic inflation. You can Google it. It's called cosmic inflation.
Dude, that's how it all began. Only applies in a closed system. It only works in the system you understand, and you're trying to make your conclusions based upon the limited logic and knowledge that we have within this universe.
No, this is science. This is straight science and fact.
No, because nobody can know anything prior to prime time. That's what I keep telling you.
You're trying to argue with your limited understanding of the universe and quantum mechanics and quantum physics.
It's not about this universe. That's what I keep telling you, dude. I don't care what we know about this universe. You're making claims about another one. Something that happened before this.
All right.
I don't know, and you're saying you do. Because somehow you do. And
all right.
So you go win your Nobel Prize and go
you can see there
prior to playing time.
You can see there too. So atheists just can't get anything. So what is the nature? This is my last one, because it's like you guys are just gonna say I don't know to any good question. What is the nature of reality? Hello.
I'm not sure I even understand the question.
Man, you're not looking good on your stream, man. You're not looking good. You gotta have something. What is the nature of reality?
Fabulous over here.
I mean, so if we're gonna go down this road now, you're on a totally different trajectory now, because you're gonna take us down a road where you're not gonna listen. Are you gonna let me talk?
I'm literally just teaching you guys.
Are you gonna let me answer your question?
You guys have no answer.
Are you
and that there is a God, because you can't come up with any explanation.
I am trying, but you keep talking over me.
Go ahead.
Do you know what hard solipsism is?
No, don't change it. Answer the question.
I'm answering it. I don't want to just talk about something you don't know what it is. I'm asking you. Do you know?
All right. So go ahead. Explain to the whole audience.
What is
what hard solipsism is?
Explain to the audience.
Okay. It's essentially the fact that we could literally be nothing more than our own minds. I could literally be the only thing that exists. In fact, I could literally be nothing more than a cosmic experiment. I could be a brain in a vat. We literally cannot be 100% certain about anything, because there's no way to know for sure. Now, because of the evidence around us, finish my talk. Because of the evidence around us, because we have a conversation, and because I'm listening to you and I'm talking to her and I've got my senses and I think, therefore I am, I have every good reason to believe that what we're living in is reality. But can I know 100%? No, I can't. I can be maximally certain. So when you ask me a question about reality, I'm saying what we live in now that we can deduce empirically, I would say that is reality. But that is only something I can know maximally.
No, I disagree. So you're telling me that when you have a dream, that means you're not in reality no more?
I mean, I wouldn't say it like that, because I'm still living in reality. I'm having a dream in reality.
So wait, but when you're dreaming, are you in this plane?
I don't know. I assume so.
Oh, we're about to go somewhere very.
I don't know anything. I need to not believe in God, because it's a big I don't know all the time.
Listen, do you have a good? Do you?
I'm going to leave you guys with this, so you can take the next guess.
Do you have
it's easier to believe in God than to deny God? It's a lot more easier to believe in God than to deny God.
Well, that may be true, but I don't believe things because they're easy. I believe them because they're true.
All right. I mean,
chosen the route to just believe something because it's easy. That is not a way to determine truth.
You find any argument to not believe in God.
I don't have any arguments to not believe in God. There's just none to believe in God.
Just not convinced. That's all there is. We're not content with just making shit up and saying, "Oh, well, it's probably that good enough." You know,
yes.
It doesn't make things true.
And I'm not okay with it's just easy. Okay. Sorry, it's easier is not a good answer.
All right, guys. So I'll let you guys be. Although the answers cannot be answered, and obviously, the concept of God itself, it just bothers you guys.
Rob, do you care about truth? Rob, do you care about the truth?
I'll let you guys go to the next person. Thank you for having me up on the panel. And, it just goes to show how atheists really don't have answers when you ask them those hard questions.
You're still just
Right.
declaring things that either you have no way to know or are demonstrably not true. But thanks
Right.
for playing. It was
Yeah,
lovely to
let's go
speak
on.
with you.
Let's go on to
All
Sean.
right.
Thank you for calling,
Well,
Rob.
thank you guys, and you guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too. So we're supposed to just believe something because I don't know is an insufficient answer because it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's not easy. Then you're just supposed to believe something and just make up a God. And I just believe it because it's just easier.
The nature of reality.
That
is boobies.
You know, and I just want to say this before we take probably our last caller. You know, part of
me seems that Sean dropped. It seems
I hope not, because I really wanted to talk to him. I hope he gets back on, but let's make sure. But I just want to say, like, calls like that are frustrating. They are, but it also makes me deeply sad because I know when I was there, when you're a Christian, you are so indoctrinated and brainwashed that you just can't consider anything outside the framework of God. And no matter how much reason there is to not believe in God, or lack of reason, I should say, to believe in God, you're stuck. And it breaks my heart. It's sad to see this many people in this world this indoctrinated. I just wish there was a way that you can logicize somebody into or out of this stuff, but all the logic in the world usually doesn't work. It usually requires a lot of removing of brainwashing.
As the ancient sages say, you can't reason a person out of a position they didn't use reason to get themselves into. And it's such a damn shame because there were so many opportunities to discuss interesting things or to help educate Rob with some of these things he clearly does not actually understand, like Schrodinger's cat, for example, which is not a scientific experiment they did that one time. It's a thought experiment put forward by Edwin Schrodinger to illustrate the concept of superposition, that the cat is... I could go through the whole thing. Suffice it to say, you set up, hypothetically, in your mind, don't do it for real, a vial of poison with a radioactive isotope connected to the release mechanism. Since radioactive decay is random and it is a quantum scale event, we can't predict it. So you put this in the box, you put the cat in the box with the poison, and you close the box because we cannot predict if the isotope decays and releases the poison, killing the cat. We don't know if the cat is alive or dead until we open the box to check. But even that's not necessarily strictly true because we can predict the half-life of isotopes, and the longer a time the cat's in the box, the more likely it decays, and so the probability changes. And that's why superposition and the Schrodinger equations and the formulas all exist to help us make statistical predictions when we can't definitively say a thing is this or this. The concept of superposition, he used the cat because it's objectively true. The cat is either alive or dead at any given moment. It is never both. So the way superposition is often presented is it's both things until you look. He used the experiment to illustrate how absurd that is. That's not true. Even though we can't know, there is still an objective fact. We could have had that discussion. We could have had a discussion about what the fuck he means by nature of reality and so many other discussions. But no, he had to declare things and move on.
Well, everything you just explained, that is why God exists. Clearly. You just made the case. Well done. Hey, we're going to give some shout outs now because we're ending the show, but I'm super sad that we lost Sean. I really wanted to talk to him. That makes me very, very sad. Sean, you're going to have to come back. Hopefully I'll be on the show when you do, because I really wanted to hear from you. So, boo, man. I almost feel like I wish we would have taken Sean instead.
Could have just been disconnected. It could be it's too late. It could be his phone lost its charge. Who knows? But Sean, if you are listening, Alan is here quite frequently, sometimes on this show, sometimes on other shows, but you do have a regular show on this channel and also your own.
I do. In fact, pay attention here in just a few minutes because I'm going to pop it up on the screen. You'll see the different shows that are on this channel as well as mine that I'm on weekly. So first, let's give a shout out to the Patreon members that support this channel. We really, really appreciate you. We got your names scrolling across the screen. Karen Butcher, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod. Hope I pronounced that right.
McLeod.
McLeod, thank you. Ryan, Dan D. The Bible says what? Sonny Shell, Phil Calderon, Victor, and Kelly King. And then let's give a shout out to the YouTube supporters. We appreciate you guys too. Member shout outs: Essential Bland, Caitlin, Chloe, Arninson. Ooh, that was a tough one. I'm sorry. Anarninson 4413. I hope I said that right. Detroit Atheist Queen 247 and Stacy Beckius. Go oops. I don't know what that is. Oh, that was from earlier. he was saying, yeah, we have another supporter called Go Oops.
Okay.
No,
I mean, it's the internet. It could be, you know.
That's hilarious. And let's thank the crew, everybody who is behind the scenes doing everything that you do. We thank you guys very, very much. It's pretty awesome having you guys do what you do. We got thanks to Wes, Bree, Call, Kelly. Ember's normally there, but we got you here tonight. And Michael, you guys are awesome for making this happen. It's super, super fun as well for us. We are looking for more volunteers. We would love to have you come on this show and be a part of what's going on behind the scenes and give us a hand. Also, you might even be on the show if that's your thing, if you like being public. So call the screener now. That'll help us get to know you. And it says mods for chat too. There's different ways for you to get a hold of us. You can contact us at skeptichaven@gmail.com. So grab us in any way that you can. If you're interested in volunteering, we would love to have you do that. And yeah, so volunteers are great. And
shows.
What's that?
The shows are.
Yeah, no, I'm not forgetting about that. I'm trying to think of what else I was going to say about volunteers, but I guess it left me.
We look for people to make us go.
It left me like the wind. You know, what am I going to tell you?
Together strong.
The wind was too strong. It's gone.
Yes.
Upcoming shows. Let's talk about that then, since I completely went blank on the comment I was going to make about volunteers. Anyway, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central, Life After Faith, hosted by Drew Beckius and a special guest every week. That is a great show. It's for you if you have blown up your life from being a Christian or a former theist, and now you're like, what do I do? I could use some help, or I just want to talk to somebody. That's your show. Give us a call on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central. Critical Call, hosted by AJ and another guest. That is a great show. You can talk about some other things besides even religion. That's a really great show for you to talk about just about anything, I guess. And then there's the Deconversionists, Fridays at 4 p.m. Central. That is a show that I host with my co-host, Elliot Christofferson. That's every Friday at 4 p.m. That one's a little different in that it's a open room show. So there'll be a link in the chat comments. You click the link and hop into the room, and we can talk face to face. It's a lot of fun. So yes, that's the one, Sean. If you can join us on Friday, I would love to talk to you. So come on and be a part of the Deconversionist show this Friday, 7 p.m. on Fridays. Every other week, it's every 2 weeks. The Thought Experiment. It's a debate show. That's a great one. So I encourage you to check out what debates are happening every Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Sunday, 7 p.m. Central. Let's talk. That's what we're doing tonight. So be back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. with probably 2 new hosts. And we hope that you will be here to challenge them as well. Because listen, if you can convince one of them, they might help convince us. Because
it's true.
Unlike some callers,
contagious in the skeptic community.
Yeah. Unlike callers who think that we just, refuse to accept that God exists. Hey, most of us were Christians. We don't refuse to accept God exists. We just refuse to accept things that don't have any place in reality. And so far, we see no evidence of a God. But, when we find it, you never know. Right, Ember?
Stranger things have happened, probably.
Stranger Things. That's a good show, by the way. Really like that one. Did you watch Stranger Things?
Just the first season. I don't really get to watch things very often.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. So good. It took them like 5 years to come out with the last season.
Finale where they played Metallica because there was Metallica, so you gotta.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything for tonight. Man, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight wishing I could remember what I was gonna make about that one comment. I just totally went blank. Oh well.
Yeah. Join us next week, folks. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate all of you. Everybody who sent super chats really, really helps. But everybody who's engaged in the chat, I've seen a little bit, trying to, keep an eye on all the things. I've only seen a little bit of live chat, but it looks like there's been some lively discussion, as long as you behave yourselves. I do appreciate everybody, though. Thank you all so much for being here. Remember to subscribe before you go. If you watch this long, you must like this kind of stuff. So hit the buttons, please.
Yes, you must. Thank you all for joining us. Have a terrific night from Skeptic Haven out.
I once knelt in candle glow and bowed my head so low. Scriptures carved my every thought, believed the myths they sold. But questions whispered in my mind when stars began to shine. I traded ancient dogma in for reason's brighter light. I'm walking out of shadows, letting science guide my way. Secular horizons open with each dawn of day. From myths and tales of old to truths we learn and find, I choose human compassion and a free, unbound mind.